Chapter 440, Su Ling City. Shan Wei-ming suppressed the excitement he felt inside. His attitude became increasingly respectful. Dongxing Cloud Island is actually a gathering of cloud islands. Other than the main island, there are more than 38,000 cloud islands of various sizes. These cloud islands are divided into different price categories based on the size, position, and ling veins. The biggest and best batch of cloud islands have basically all been sold. The remaining are mostly medium-sized and small cloud islands, as well as fragmented cloud islands. Suemo asked interestedly. What is the situation of medium, small, and fragmented cloud islands? Shan Wei-ming's explanation was very detailed. Fragmented cloud islands are the smallest cloud islands. They are mostly less than 100 mu in size, and usually will not have ling veins. They are mainly used as residences by lone xiuzhe. The little island I own is just 40 mu. Cloud islands above 100 mu and below 1000 mu are considered little cloud islands. Many have ling veins, but they are very pricey. Islands over 1000 mu and below 50,000 mu are considered middle cloud islands. These cloud islands usually have ling veins of good quality, some with ling lakes and springs so one can make ling fields. The large cloud islands above 50,000 mu have been mostly sold, and the requirements to buy one are much stricter. Suemo pondered for a while. With how many people they had, they probably needed to buy a middle-sized cloud island, and it had to a larger one. He asked, what is the price of a middle-sized cloud island? As expected, a big boss. Shan Wei-ming was overjoyed inside. Suppressing his excitement, he said, usually, it is 1/3 grade jingshe per mu. This price isn't cheap. Suemo was slightly alarmed. Tens of thousands of pieces of 3rd grade jingshe definitely was not a small sum. It really isn't cheap. Shan Wei-ming said emotionally. This jia is filled with the cloud sea, the only place to land are the cloud islands. Those lone islands that do not have protection are not worth anything. Eliminating those, there aren't many cloud islands left. Adding on that the situation outside is slightly tense, the price of cloud islands have risen in recent days. Suemo paused. Why is that? Too many people have come to the jia recently, Shan Wei-ming explained. Cloud Sea Jia is remote, and is situated at the intersection between the borders of the 4 realms. In the past, there were not many that came from the outside. The situation has now drastically changed. This place is far from the front lines. Entering the Jia here is difficult from the Jia River, and many must rely on transportation formations. If the situation turns for the worst, we can simply destroy the transportation formation and be safe. In these past 2 years, xiuzhe from other places have started gathering here, so everyone hasn't had good days. How come? Suemo asked back. The prices of commodities have risen greatly. Cloud Sea Jia is different than other places, the Jia River is hard to travel through so we rely on transportation formations. But if supplies are transported through transportation formations, the consumption of jingshe used on them is significant. If I hadn't accumulated some wealth in the past and bought a fragmented cloud island, I won't even have a place to live with how high the prices are now. Shan Wei-ming shook his head and sighed. So it's like that. Suemo was thoughtful. They flew closer to Dongxing Cloud Island. Soon, they landed on the big island. A xiuzhe whose clothes had a bright script of Su Ling flew over and swept his gaze over the black turtle behind Suemo, Area 4, number 130. Docking costs 3 pieces of 3rd grade jingshe a day. Prepayment is 20 pieces of 3rd grade jingshe, and the deposit 10 pieces of 3rd grade jingshe. At the side, Shan Wei-ming explained. The ships cannot enter the city and must stay at the docks ahead. Area 4 is used to store small ships. There are special storage areas on the docks. Boss, remember to arrange for people to guard it. Suemo finally felt the pain of the high prices here. However, when he heard Shang Wei Ming's last sentence, he instantly became wary. It's not safe. Shang Wei Ming had a grimace. It was alright before, but currently, it is not too good. There were several people whose merchandise had been stolen. Oh. Suemo nodded. He then asked, if we encounter people stealing, is it alright to kill them? Shang Wei Ming's heart suddenly jumped. In this instant, the other had seemed to suddenly become a whole other person and exuded a dangerous presence. When Shang Wei Ming looked closely, he only saw a smiling big boss. He was suspicious that his eyesight had gone bad. He forced a smile and said, if they are truly thieves, it is all right to kill them. However, it is best not to kill if possible. Harmonious business is best. Harmonious business, very reasonable. Suemo nodded. Under the guidance of the Su Ling sect disciple, the black turtle was put away at Area 4, Bay 130, and they paid the fees. Gongsun Cha, Xia Shan, Zhong Ru flew out of the ship, the others stayed inside. Suemo did not want to attract too much attention. With eldest Shixiang, Xia Shan, Zhong Ru, and himself, as long as they did not meet a Yuanying Xiuzhe, there was little worry for their safety. As for Xiuzhe that were in the stage of Yuanying, Suemo had never seen one before, not even in Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie. As they left the harbor, a straight blue stone road about 5 zhang wide appeared in front of everyone. The both sides were lined with a row of stone lamps. The stone lamps were not constructed from high-quality materials, but Suemo noticed that the pillars of each stone lamp were engraved with complex formation scripts. A large-scale formation. Suemo's heart shook slightly. These regularly arranged stone lamps were a part of a large-scale formation. He could clearly feel the fine Ling power vibrations that were unique to formations. Su Ling City is one of the large cities in this area since Su Ling sect, a seal formation cultivation sect, is very strong. They put great emphasis on trading of materials. If boss has merchandise of this kind, you may want to sell them directly to Su Ling sect. The prices they give are very fair. If the amount of the transaction is large, they will also give small concessions, Shang Wei Ming said. Suemo now understood. So Su Ling sect was a formation sect. No wonder. There are many disciples in Su Ling sect, so the amount of materials used each day is astounding. The talismans and seal soldiers they forge are very good and easy to sell. They are from Tianhuan realm, and have great power. They managed to establish themselves quickly after arriving in Cloud Sea Jie. After developing for such a long time, their reputation in this area is very good, Shang Wei Ming said. Suemo thought of a question. The materials which aren't easy to transport, can't you plant them? People do, Shang Wei Ming said, but Ling farming requires Ling fields, animal raising requires Ling lakes and springs, and Xiuzhe who are professionals, and also time. Unless they plan to stay here in the future, their efforts will only go to benefit other people. Right now, everyone wants to stay here for the safety, but when the war ends, how many people are willing to remain here? Suemo nodded. That's true. No matter if it was growing Ling plants or animals, they were not quick endeavors. They needed constant care. If one did not plan on establishing a home here, then no one was willing to spend so much effort and not gain anything. Shang Wei Ming explained in great detail and Suemo also listened carefully. Suemo's procession did not attract any attention. They didn't wear any talismans, and their clothing looked normal. Their expressions were normal and did not have the pride of experts. Gongsun Cha had a shy and bashful smile hanging on his face, looking like the boy next door. The female Xiu that passed by looked with interest at Gongsun Cha for a while. When they saw the shy blush on Gongsun Cha's face increased due to their interest, they giggled. Suemo saw this and laughed. Who could think that the fearsome Lil Thamis, that wouldn't even blink an eye when killing thousands, was embarrassed by a few girls? Shang Wei Ming couldn't help but also laugh. This young brother is very handsome. Suemo roared with laughter. Wei Xing laughed lightly. Xia Shan and Zhong Ru did not dare, and could only force themselves to repress laughter. Their expressions looked very strange. Shan Wei Ming was confused. He didn't know what was humorous about what he said. The tendons in Gongsun Cha's forehead pulsed, but in the eyes of other people, it was filled with the innocent adorableness of youth. It caused the female Xiu on the road to laugh again. A daring female Xiu ran over. "Hey, what are you called?" Gongsun Cha's face suddenly became as red as an apple. Suemo couldn't resist any longer. He squatted on the ground and slammed his fist as he laughed. Xia Shan and Zhong Ru's expressions almost twisted, looking like fish that were suffocating. "You are so shy." The female Xiu was not afraid of strangers, her black eyes filled with liveliness. She reached out a snowy white hand. "I am a Mu Lian." Staring at the snowy white hand in front of him, Gongsun Cha stilled. "Let's be friends." Gongsun Cha felt his face was burning. He didn't know what to do with his hands, his heart filled with unprecedented panic, as he unconsciously made a sound. The laughter of a Mu Lian's fellows came from the distance. Gongsun Cha was even more distraught. "Huh, you're so cute." A Mu Lian was very happy. One of the older female Xiu in the group urged her to leave with a smile. "Ah! I have to go." The female Xiu jumped up and turned to leave. After a distance, she waved her white hand at Gongsun Cha, and then formed it into a funnel to shout, "Don't forget my name, I'm a Mu Lian." A Mu Lian's group quickly disappeared. Suemo fell backwards as he laughed. He had never seen Gongsun Shidi so panicked and clueless before. He used this matter to tease Gongsun Cha along the way, but Gongsun Cha kept his head down and did not respond to Suemo's teasing. Seeing Gongsun Shidi's burning face and soulless expression, Suemo suddenly felt very good. This little detour raised everyone's spirits as they walked towards the city gates. The city gate of Suling City was not large. Many Suling sect disciples were guarding the gate. Behind them were many large and tall seal soldiers. They did not question the people passing by and only came up to inspect any disturbances, like when there were fights. It was possible to see all kinds of flying talismans in the sky, but the most common were paper cranes. This made Suemo feel a sense of kinship. Entering the city doors, a wave of sound crashed into them. Third-grade yellow armor strength warrior, with endless strength, suitable for all kinds of manual labor, long-lasting and durable. Essential for building and digging in mountains. Third-grade grass puppet, making tea, pouring water, washing clothing and sheets, for all purposes, your best servant. Sprint lightning seal. Sprint lightning seal. Su Ling Sec Sprint lightning seal. Only 100 pieces of third-grade Jingshi. Do not pass this opportunity by. The familiar yet unfamiliar scene caused Suemo's mind to blur. After so much killing and danger, the hawking of wares on the street caused Suemo to be so moved he wanted to cry in this moment. He pushed down the soreness in his nose and grinned. This feeling was really good. Chapter 441, Rules. Su Ling City did not have the sense of dread and nervousness pervading it like the front lines but seemed chaotic due to the influx of outside shuja. However, this caused the market to seem even busier and more prosperous. This is the Cloud Pavilion, the biggest treasure shop in Su Ling City. Shang Weiming took Suemo and the others to the doorway of a very grand shop. The walls of this shop were completely made from crystal bricks, and hanging under the curved eaves were crystal palace lamps. These clear crystal lamps slowly spun and released lights of all colors. Reflecting on the crystal walls, the images were of rainbows and they changed in all ways. Looking at this grand cloud pavilion, Suemo and the others gaped, their expressions amazed. The formation scripts on each crystal light was faintly discernible, and each crystal palace lamp would contain 28 of them. The entire shop was under the protection of formations. Where had Zuemo seen such a grandiose shop before? To say of nothing else, just these glowing crystal bricks would be worth large amounts of jingsha. A complex look flashed through Shang Wei Ming's eyes, but they quickly returned to normal. Cloud Pavilion has shop fronts on almost all major cities on Dongxing Cloud Island. The owner of the Cloud Pavilion rarely show themselves, but in terms of previous treasures and high-level materials, it is much better than other shops. A moment later, Zuemo refocused. Shocked, he couldn't help but feel anticipation. To say of nothing else, just this grandly decorated shopfront was enough to prove that this shop possessed a powerful background. Entering the Cloud Pavilion with Shang Wei Ming, he found that the inside was multiple times more luxurious than the outside. The ground was lined with black third-grade gold starshine rock. Each piece was sanded until it was as smooth as glass. The dots of gold in the rock were like stars in the night sky. Each shelf only held one treasure. Around it, the mirage illusions constantly changed, presenting a detailed explanation of each treasure. A shopkeeper came over, his attitude enthusiastic yet courteous. "Welcome to the Cloud Pavilion, it is my honor to provide you service. Please browse freely, you may inspect and touch any item." The shopkeeper glanced at Shang Wei Ming at the side, and a thread of disdain flashed through his eyes. Any rare and precious treasure of high grade would release light. This was a treasure light. Looking over, the entire store was illuminated with treasure light. Filling their fields of vision with talismans and high-grade materials, even someone like Zuemo that was used to seeing such good things couldn't help but show slight shock. This Cloud Pavilion really lived up to rumors. None of the talismans and materials on display were below 4th grade. Other than Zuemo, Wei Sheng, and Gongsun Cha, the other people were amazed by the room filled with treasure light. Wei Sheng's heart was for the sword and was unaffected by outside objects. Gongsun Cha's mind was also not attuned to such things. Shang Wei Ming's expression was complex. In the depths of his eyes, they showed slight pain. Zuemo did not detect Shang Wei Ming's change. He asked the shopkeeper, "Does your store have water cloud embryo?" "Water cloud embryo?" The shopkeeper shook his head and said, "My sincere apologies, our store's water cloud embryos have all been sold. A person has bought all the water cloud embryo in our store 3 months ago." Seeing Zuemo's disappointment, the shopkeeper explained, "While water cloud embryo is not a high-grade item, it is only produced in the deepest part of the cloud sea. There is still half a year until the cloud tide recedes. Unless the cloud tide recedes, we cannot enter the cloud sea. Sir probably will have to wait for a half year. If Sir needs it, you may want to leave behind an address. If there is merchandise, our store will inform you as soon as possible." Zuemo couldn't help but show disappointment. His brow furrowed. Cloud tide. Shang Wei Ming did not forget his duties as a guide and hurriedly explained, "The cloud sea will have a cloud tide every 2 years. During the cloud tide, the cloud sea will become extremely unstable. It is very dangerous to enter the cloud sea in this time, so there usually aren't any that enter the cloud sea. Let's go to some place else to search." Zuemo was disappointed but did not show it on his face and said faintly. The shopkeeper smiled and said with slight pride, "Customer, please do not waste your efforts. This one will say something which is not a boast. If you cannot buy it at this store, you definitely cannot buy it at any other store in Cloud Sijia. You may ask Mr. Shang about this, he should know it well." A painful look flashed through Shang Wei Ming's eyes. He suppressed it and gritted, "Yes." The shopkeeper smiled and did not speak any further. Zuemo noticed Shang Wei Ming's abnormal change, but he could also see that Shang Wei Ming did not lie. He was disappointed. However, he quickly sorted out his emotions. It seemed they would have to stay a while in Cloud Sijia. They could look around. If that didn't work, they might have to make a trip into the Cloud Sea. But his original plan had been to settle down in Cloud Sea Jie. This place was poor and remote, hard to travel to, and was far from the front lines. Kunluan's attention would not be focused on this place. He also found that Sword Xiu were not at an advantage in Cloud Sea Jie. It was clear that this did not belong to Kunluan's influence. Cloud Sea Jie was a pretty good place to rest. At this time, he suddenly heard a female voice behind him. "Hey, isn't this Shang Wei Ming? TSK, coming here again to sell something? Wait, this miss remembers that you sold all your assets. Did you dig out something good from your home? Let this miss take a look. If this miss likes it, this miss will bestow you some food." The cruel and harsh words caused Shang Wei Ming's face to flush instantly with blood, his hands unconsciously balling together. Suemo turned around. A startling beautiful female entered his view. She had high brows, thin lips and a high nose. Her face was filled with disdain as she looked down at Shang Wei Ming with a faintly discernible smile on her mouth. The female raised her head high as she strode light. The rings and pendants she wore chimed gently. When those shopkeepers saw her, their attitudes were respectful as they bowed. Miss Ren. Miss Ren did not seem to hear them. Her attitude did not change at all. Walking in front of Shang Wei Ming, she examined him and said with a slight smile, "This miss has just been wondering why you couldn't be found. So you found a job as a guide. TSK, the old Shang family that was so high-flying in the past has fallen so. Really causes this miss to feel heartsore. Seeing you today, how can this miss not do anything? Ren Qing, do not go overboard." Shang Wei Ming's face was entirely red as his knuckles cracked. Go overboard? Ha! These two words are so appropriate. I like to go overboard. She turned to face Suemo. "Please, sir, be generous and let him go. Sir can pick any fourth-grade talisman." She then turned to face the shopkeeper. "Put it on this Miss Tab." "Yes," the shopkeeper said respectfully. Suemo raised his hand and said coldly, "Wait. Is sir not even going to give some face to Ren Qing?" Ren Qing's face as frosty. Suemo's expression did not waver. "I have hired Brother Shang, he is not a slave. This one does not have the right to trade him." Ren Qing's expression lessened slightly. "Then what does sir mean?" Suemo faintly said, "This has to be Brother Shang's own wishes. If Brother Shang nods his head, this one has nothing to say. There's no need for the fourth-grade talisman, just return my guide fee to me." Ren Qing smiled brightly. "So that's how it is, easy." Finishing, she turned and walked in front of Shang Wei Ming, smiling like a flower. "Shang Wei Ming, make a sound." Shang Wei Ming felt the anger burning inside his chest as he gritted. "Ren, don't even think about it." Slap. A loud slap landed on his face. Shang Wei Ming's mind blanked. In this instant, unprecedented humiliation washed over him. His eyes instantly turned around, tendons bulging on his fists as he prepared to fight for his life. Ren Qing still had a smile that was full of disdain. "Your son is much more talented than you, almost at Ningmai. This miss heard that he is at the Clear Mountain Sword Sect. Do you want to ruin his future? Do you need me to go make a visit?" Shang Wei Ming forcibly stopped his motion. He felt as though he was in a glacier, his eyes shooting out anger and hatred. He seemed to squeeze through his teeth. "What do you really want to do?" "Pia." Ren Qing reversed her hand for another slap. "To do? Ha! This miss just wants to find amusement out of you." How powerful was the old Shang family back in the day, almost suffocating my Ren family. Now that this miss can find amusement from Shang Wei Ming, this miss is happy. "You, Pia." Another slap. "Don't dodge, stand still. Don't forget about your son." Shang Wei Ming seemed to be struck by lightning. Like a wooden puppet, he stayed motionless. Suemo finally couldn't stand aside. A thread of dislike appeared between his brows. He stepped forward. Enough. Killing someone is just causing their head to drop to the floor. No matter how great the grievances were in the past, there is no need for such humiliation. Ren Qing's hand stopped in the air. She turned around and said with a cold smirk. You really did not take my goodwill. When I, Ren Qing, does something, when is it someone else's turn to order me about? Don't you know the rules? Suemo grinned and showed his clean teeth. He smiled darkly. You're right, we're newcomers. His figure flashed and he appeared next to Ren Qing, grabbing her. She hadn't reacted at all. He smiled viciously. Little girl, you are really evil at heart. Rules? Let ye teach you rules. Finishing, he started to strike at her face from right to left without any mercy. The shopkeepers of the Cloud Pavilion instantly paled and exploded. Stop. Stop now. You will all die. The guards of the Cloud Pavilion charged in upon seeing this. A cold snort suddenly exploded next to their ears like a clap of thunder. Their ears rang. Some guards of weaker cultivation instantly bled from their mouth, their faces terrified. Beside Xia Shan, Zhong Ru's palms were pressed together, his eyes closed. He disliked Ren Qing's maliciousness, and he did not give mercy when using this attainment thunder. There was shock on everyone's faces, and they became even more panicked. Formation. Activate the formation. Ask for aid from Elder Su. My heavens! Suemo didn't even look at the panicking guards. He did not use Ling power or the Mo physique as he sent out a string of slaps. Looking at the completely transformed Ren Qing, he felt he had vented his anger, and felt unspeakably good. The pitiful Ren Qing's pretty face was now swollen, green and purple, her hair disheveled. From when Suemo started to act, she didn't even have the time to shout. Her eyes showed deep hatred and maliciousness as though she wanted to swallow Suemo. But what kind of vicious people hadn't Suemo encountered? He wouldn't place any importance on a little character like this. He held Ren Qing's neck as though he was holding a fowl waiting for slaughter. He smiled viciously and said, in the future, don't let ye see you. Ye'll hit you each time ye sees you. At this time, the smooth gold starshine stone below everyone's feet started to light up with formation scripts. Chapter 442, Women like Yu Shang Wei Ming looked at the formation scripts that were lighting up in succession and paled dramatically. He hurried to remind Suemo's group. Run! Careful of the formation. Shang Wei Ming felt his death was nearing, since events had escalated to such a degree. But he knew these people intended to help him. However, they did not know the power of the Ren clan in Su Ling City. With Ren Qing's temper and personality, after such a humiliation, they would not be able to escape death. You cannot escape. Release Miss Ren immediately, we will give you a road to life, a shopkeeper said sternly to Suemo, and the others felt an invisible power restrain them as though there were little mountains on their backs. The jade pendants hanging from the waists of the Cloud Pavilion guards and shopkeepers exuded faint lights. Their movements were not affected at all. The guards and shopkeeper quickly resumed their normal expressions. The store formation had been set up by an expert knowledgeable in formations. Their minimum requirement was that it was able to withstand a blow of Jingdan Shouja. Even though these daring people were powerful, but with the big formation activated, they could not fly even if they had wings. You cannot escape. I will slice you all thousands of times. And not die in peace. Ren Qing shrieked as though she was crazy. Without another word, Suemo sent out another string of blows to the point that Ren Qing was seeing gold stars. Her eyes showing terror, she finally remembered that she was still in the hands of this terrifying person. Suemo's anger dissipated slightly after giving the blows. He snorted coldly. You really asked for this. You can't behave if you aren't hit. Ren Qing shook, and closed her mouth in terror. The male was young, his appearance was not evil, but the killing intent that he had just exuded made her shiver. Shan Wei Ming's face became purple. In front of the big formation, his low cultivation was like paper. Gong Sun Cha had the protection of Zhong Ru and didn't feel it. Zuemo saw Shan Wei Ming state out of the corner of his eye and shouted, "Old Xia, the third lamp pillar on your right, destroy it." He had noticed these lamp pillars when he entered the store. This kind of store definitely had formations. This was strange. Being alert to the surroundings and not allowing himself to be placed in danger was now Zuomo's instinct. Hands already itching, a rainbow sword energy left Xia Shan's hands without a word. Like cutting tofu, he sliced through the third lamp pillar on his right. Everyone felt their bodies loosen. The sixth one behind you. Third row in front of your feet, the fourth tile on the left. Zuomo's calm orders followed each other. Every time Xia Shan's sword energy landed, the power of the big formation lessened a fraction. Under the terrified gazes of the Cloud Pavilion guards and shopkeepers, the big formation that was impenetrable in their hearts was continuously weakened under the others' blows until the last thread of formation scripts on the gold starshine tiles dimmed and the big formation was completely destroyed. With all the pressure relieved, Shan Wei Ming was like a dead fish, fainting away on the ground. Just as the guards and shopkeepers felt hopeless, a guard coincidentally saw a familiar figure. He seemed to have grabbed hold of a lifeline and shouted, "Elder Su! Elder Su! Save us!" In the shadow, Su Zhengwei's steps paused as he thought, this was bad. Truthfully, he had arrived long ago, but seeing the other disassemble the formation so easily, thoughts of retreat formed. Even though he would receive a tribute from the Cloud Pavilion each month and he had agreed to help, but he definitely would not do something for the Cloud Pavilion that would result in losing his life. This crowd of idiots. Were they blind? Why did they have to provoke a crowd of lawless and murderous brutes? Su Zhengwei was not an ignorant person. These people had moved crisply and cleanly. This kind of murderous decisiveness was unable to be achieved by people that had not killed before. No matter what, he definitely did not want to have this kind of trouble. Just as he was preparing to flee, a guard had seen him. He instantly landed in a dilemma. If he left, it wouldn't be good if it spread that he had taken the others' tribute and didn't help. If he didn't go and really face this group of lawless brutes, then his old bones were not enough. After fighting internally, Elder Su still stood out. "Everyone, please stop. This old man is not the owner of this store but is familiar with this owner. This one will have a thick face and give apologies. Everyone, please give some face, and resolve this peacefully." Elder Su's words said with a humble attitude caused the guards that had been preparing to shout, "Elder Su, help capture these people," to gape. The store instantly became silent. Elder Su was a Jindan Shouja. The same thought flashed through everyone's minds. They were suspicious that their eyes were working. Elder Su, who was usually proud, calm and ethereal, was really the same person as this Elder Su who was bowing his back humbly with a smile on his face. This old man was a Jindan. The same thought flashed through the minds of Zuomo and his group. This Cloud Pavilion had some power. It had the protection of a Jindan. Even though Wei Sheng and the others were all Jindan, Zuomo had even killed Song Yuan, a Kunlun Jindan disciple, he was not willing to lightly start a battle with another Jindan. There wasn't any one simple who could cultivate to Jindan. Compared to the seriousness of Zuomo and the others, Elder Su, who had a smile on his face, felt his heart beat wildly and was astounded. Other than one person whose cultivation was very weak, and the other was definitely not a Jindan, he could not see the depth of cultivation of the other three. This was a very dangerous sign. Either the other's power was higher than his, or the other was cultivating an unusual spell. No matter which one it was dangerous for him. He couldn't help but celebrate that he had kept his attitude extremely humble. The common saying was that one did not slap a smiling face. He, Su Zhengwei, was also a Jin Dan. Placing his own self-pride so low, the other would be embarrassed to attack. As expected, the enmity of the group decreased, but at this time, a familiar voice interrupted the easing situation. "Grandpa Su. Save me. Save Qing'er." He saw a female with a swollen face and loose hair struggling on the hand of the leader. Back then in the shadow, Su Zhengwei had seen it clearly. This young person was the decision-maker of the group, and one of those he could not perceive the power of. Elder Su stilled and looked in disbelief at the completely changed Ren Qing. "Qing'er. You are Qing'er. Woo woo woo. Grandpa Su, save Qing'er." Mentally strained, Ren Qing started to cry. Learning that Suemo was holding Ren Qing, Elder Su instantly understood. How couldn't he know Ren Qing's arrogance? It definitely was that Ren Qing had provoked the other and resulted in her being disciplined. He could see that the other had had mercy. Ren Qing's hair was loose, her face bruised, but she was not heavily injured. The other definitely had not used Ling power. Otherwise, Ren Qing wouldn't be alive. Elder Su felt a great headache. He didn't hold any good feelings for Ren Qing's difficult personality. However, he still had to consider Ren Qing's elders. The reason that Ren Qing could be so arrogant in Su Ling City had a direct connection with her overprotective elders, who had strange personalities. If he stood aside today, those old people would definitely make trouble for him tomorrow. This was terrible. Elder Su felt bitter inside. He raised his folded hands and said sincerely, "Little brothers, this old man is acquainted with the elders of this girl. Little girl doesn't understand worldly matters. Today's events are a lesson for her. Please, raise your hands and let her go." Suemo hadn't planned on taking Ren Qing's little life. Seeing Su Zhengwei's sincere attitude, he nodded and said easily, "Okay." As he spoke, he waved his hand and Ren Qing flew towards Elder Su. Elder Su hurriedly raised a hand and received Ren Qing. When Ren Qing landed, her eyes became red. Pointing at Suemo's group, she shrieked, "Grandpa Su. Kill them. Kill them all." Elder Su's expression changed. He hadn't expected Ren Qing to be so idiotic that she could not understand the situation. The other group's expressions became unfriendly and showed hints of killing intent. He smiled awkwardly and said, "So sorry. Little child is still shocked, sorry. The lesson today is good for her." Su Zhengwei's words caused the expressions of Suemo's group to ease again. But at this time, a dark voice suddenly sounded at this time. When was it someone else's turn to lecture a child of our Ren family? Su Zhengwei's expression changed. 3 old people walked in through the door. All of them had white hair and beards, their expressions dark. The moment that Suemo had grabbed Ren Qing, she had secretly torn apart the life-saving seal. The 3 had received Ren Qing's request for aid, paled and hurried over. When Ren Qing saw the 3 old people, she cried as she fell into the embrace of the leader. "Grandpa! Grandpa!" The leading old person warmly comforted her, "Qing'er, don't cry, Grandpa will settle the score for you." Ren Qing raised her head, a poisonous light flashing in her eyes as she ground her teeth. "I want them all dead. All of them dead." "Qing'er, rest your heart," another old person spoke, "Second Grandpa promises none of them will live past today. Dare to bully our Ren family, you have guts." The third Ren was brimming with killing intent. Ren Qing's eyes were vicious. She pointed at Shang Wei Ming and said, "That is Shang Wei Ming from the old Shang family. Don't kill him, I want to slowly sort him out." Shang Wei Ming's face was ashen. He knew it would be hard to escape this calamity. "Yes, as long as you are happy, anything for you." Eldest Grandpa was peerlessly benevolent. "And his son that's at Clear Mountain Sword Sect?" Ren Qing said poisonously. "Yes, we'll definitely capture him for Qing'er." Shan Weiming felt a thunder clap over his head, his thoughts ended. Ren Qing showed a cruel smile. At this moment, Zui Mo and the others suddenly disappeared. The faces of the three Ren family elders changed. Eldest Grandpa's reaction was not slow. He pushed and Ren Qing was shielded behind his back. A void sword essence, a rainbow sword essence, and a dense fist essence appeared. Each instantly locked onto one of the three people. The three felt their hairs stand up. At the same time, a faint gold figure flashed behind the three people. Ren Qing's voice suddenly stopped, her cruel smile freezing on her face. She heard the crack of a bone in her neck, and then she found the angle of her vision become extremely strange. Before she was swallowed by the tide of darkness, she managed to make out words. For women like you, it's better for you to die. Chapter 443, Collision. No one had expected Zui Mo would take the opportunity to make a sneak attack. Su Jingwei's head rang. Looking at Ren Qing's strangely angled neck, he was stunned. The other's viciousness and decisiveness was far beyond his predictions. He had never thought that this conflict would directly become a battle to the death. With the protective personalities of the three Ren elders and their affection for Ren Qing, there was only one conclusion of this situation: it would end in a battle to the death. This group of young people, with unknown origins, had used a crisp and clean sneak attack to show their determination to fight and their fearlessness. After the amazement was endless panic. The three Jindan of the Ren family were very famous in Su Ling City. Even Su Ling's sect gave them some face. Su Jingwei was also a Jindan, but he knew his strength was not a match for these three unreasonable people. Su Jingwei suddenly been placed in a very awkward position. It was not good to provoke the three Ren elders, but this young group of unknown origins were not friendly either. The young grouper wasn't afraid of the three Ren elders at all. Adding on that he could not clearly determine their strength, he didn't dare to move. If he remained neutral and the Ren family was defeated, it would be fine, but if the Ren family won, then his days would not be easy. With the temperament of the three Ren elders, they would definitely make trouble for him in the future. In an instant, countless thoughts spun in Su Jingwei's mind. Seeing their granddaughter die in front of them, the three old men glared angrily, their eyes instantly turned red. They shouted in anger and, in unison, went all out. A green color quickly spread over the body of the elder Ren. His entire face became black-green and his old features seemed to have the texture of bark. His skin also became very coarse. A thick wood element power rose. When the green color reached his head, his black-green hair grew at astounding speed, becoming thumb-thick green vines. The green vines danced wildly on the head like green snakes, furiously twisting their bodies. Pia pia pia. The dancing green vines whipped towards Wei Xing's sword essence. These crisp green vines were unusually strong. When they collided with Wei Xing's sword essence, it created metallic sounds and sparks flew. A layer of white water mist shrouded Second Ren's body. His entire body became transparent, his figure quickly merging into the water. In a brief interval, he had become a transparent person made of water. Facing Zhong Ru's dense fist essence, the water person's shape changed. He turned to a thin stream of water, and like a snake, dodging at a strange angle. Third Ren was completely covered in a ball of fire. The burning flames sprouted from his body. The gold starshine rock under his feet started to melt and his skin started to peel. When Xie Shan's sword essence approached near the flames on Third Ren's body, they burst into sparks. After his successful attack on Ren Qing, Zui Mo returned to stand next to Gongsun Cha. He saw the three old men attacking and his heart instantly shook. These were roaming Xiu. These three old men were roaming Xiu. Roaming Xiu was a very broad category. Usually, Xiuzha other than Sword Xiu, Seal Xiu, and Diana Xiu, all other Xiu were categorized as roaming Xiu. Among the roaming Xiu, the most common were 5-element roaming Xiu. The 5 elements were easy to learn but were hard to master. But if one reached a stage of mastery, there were many wondrous powers. There were many 5 elements spells on the market, and so roaming Xiao that cultivated the 5 elements were the most common. The 3 Ren family elders all cultivated one element and they had all reached a profound level. It was extraordinary when they attacked. The power that the 3 Ren family elders showed also caused Su Zhengwei's expression to change. These 3's reputations were not insubstantial as they had dominated Su Ling City for so long. In the past, Su Zhengwei only knew that these 3 old people were hard to deal with. He hadn't thought that they were so powerful. This really was a dilemma. What to do? Su Zhengwei groaned inside. Sui Mo was shocked but he was not too nervous. He looked warily at Su Zhengwei whose expression was changing. Gongsun Shidi's skill at command was powerful, but his individual combat abilities were almost nothing. Any average guard could kill him. Having made a successful strike, Sui Mo had instantly returned to guard Gongsun Shidi to prevent the battle from affecting Shidi. The anger in Sui Mo's heart had been vented through personally ending that despicable woman's life. He calmly watched the fight. Xia Shan and the other 2 reacted differently facing the increasing presences of their opponents. Seeing his sword essence easily defeated, Xia Shan coldly snorted. The paired mirage sword disappeared from his hand. 2 light hums sounded in the air, one deep and thick and the other one high-pitched, both shot into the sky. Following them were 2 rainbow lights that were twisted together. With soul-shaking howls, they shot at 3rd Ren. Zhong Ru's expression did not change when his punch missed. His eyes were still half-lidded like before, his expression dignified, but the blood lotus flower on his forehead became brighter as though it was dripping in fresh blood. Behind him, a faint shadow appeared. Dragon Elephant Attainment. The shadow gradually became one with Zhong Ru. Zhong Ru's Diana robes moved despite there being no wind, they were flapping hard. When the closed eyes slowly opened, they were empty of any emotion, and the blood lotus on his forehead was like a furious flame. Raising his hand to deliver a punch, a very normal and average punch. In terms of presence, the most shocking was still Wei Sheng. Seeing the others twisting green vines easily destroy his sword essence, Wei Sheng did not show any timidity. His tiger-like eyes suddenly lit up, the desire for battle exploding in his chest. After breaking through to Jindan, and occasionally sparring with Sui Mo, he had never truly fought a hard battle. Because there were no suitable opponents. The battle desire that had accumulated for so long erupted like a volcano, and caused Wei Sheng's blood to boil. Without even drawing the black sword, his right foot suddenly stepped forward, his figure bending slightly forward as though he was a sword leaving the sheath. Void sword essence shot into the sky. The presence of void and emptiness came like the darkness of night. With Wei Sheng as the center, it noiselessly spread into the surroundings and swallowed everything. Everyone felt their vision blur and it appeared as though they were situated in an void realm. There was no sound, no light, only endless void, an empty void of death. Wei Sheng's sword essence had enveloped everyone into it. Sui Mo also jumped in fright. Eldest Shixiang had lost himself in battle. He hurriedly grabbed Gongsun Cha and Shang Wei Ming, and his figure retreated rapidly. He had moved more than 10 zhang before everything in his vision became normal again. Whoa! When eldest Shixiang went crazy, it really was scary. Sui Mo couldn't help but feel sympathy for the old man that was facing eldest Shixiang. Sighing, he could not form any jealousy. No one knew better than him how eldest Shixiang's terrifying strength had been achieved. That was truly accumulation in dots and rips, gradually progressing from nothing to some to many, there was no shortcuts in this. Sui Mo knew that he could not do what eldest Shixiang could. Xia Shan's eyelids twitched rapidly as he was amazed inside. Wei Sheng and he were both Jindan, the other was also younger than him, but he was still respectful to Teacher Wei. Teacher Wei's skill on the path of the sword was unfathomable, enough to make him feel respect, but he had never seen Teacher Wei attack with his full power. Due to Wei Xing's sword, Zhong Ru's cold and indifferent eyes suddenly was rippled indiscernibly. Since they reacted so, the three Ren family elders' reactions could be imagined. All of them paled. Their heads rang out. They knew they had kicked a metal board this time. To take revenge for Qiner. Eldest Ren took a deep breath and roared angrily. To be able to cultivate to Jindan and lead the Ren family for decades, he was not a weak person. It was just that he had spoiled Ren Qing far too much that this calamity had landed on their heads. But facing such an astounding sword essence, he finally recovered his calmness. They were pressed to a situation of life and death. The Ren family was pressed to a situation of life and death. If they were pushed another step, it would mean they would be crushed. This was for the three of them, and also for the Ren family. His angry shout was perfectly timed. Second Ren and Third Ren, whose presences were stopped, thought of their beloved granddaughter dying right in front of them. The two old men's anger exploded again, and so did their presences. All in. The three elders attacked together rather than retreat. The green of eldest Ren's body grew a fraction. His entire person was like an ancient tree, countless green branches sprouting out of his body into the ground. In front of these green vines, the hard gold starshine rock was like tofu and easily pierced. Earth energy flowed along the green vines rooted in the deep ground and continuously entered eldest Ren's body. Hiss hiss hiss. As though numerous snakes were spitting, those furiously dancing green vines left behind green marks of light in the air. The green marks crisscrossed, and a formation instantly formed. Green sprouts came out of the ground. At an amazing rate, they grew, produced leaves, flowers bloomed and bore fruit. In a blink, the ground was carpeted in a layer of flora. It was like a forest floor bed, bursting with endless vitality, teeming with life. The flowers gradually withered, the petals danced in the air, the leaves falling off their branches and flying everywhere. The fruits on the trees cracked open, seeds shooting everywhere to burrow into the ground and start a new cycle of furious growth. Life without rest. Flower petals and leaves continuously flew through the air. In a short while, the air was filled with leaves and flower petals. They danced and spun, spreading everywhere and continuously migrated towards the deepest parts of the void. But at the same time, countless plants, flowers, and leaves were withering at an astounding rate and turning to nothingness. This was a struggle between death and vitality. Zhuo Mo's expression became serious. This dislikable old man had such deep skill in the wood element. Wood was the primary element for life. This was the strongest attribute of the wood element, but was also the hardest attribute to comprehend. Zhuo Mo suddenly recalled back when he was at the end of the prison-breaking battle of vast water clear skies and was facing that vast vitality. He couldn't help but shudder. Death and life were like twins, and were one of the most basic powers. Eldest Shixiang's void sword essence was the sword of death and nothingness. The other's wood element spell was the category of spell where it was easiest to comprehend the attribute of life. Wood element spells were not famed for their power but was the perfect for subduing eldest Shixiang's void sword essence. Zhuo Mo did not go forward to give aid. He believed in eldest Shixiang. From the time he had first read eldest Shixiang's reflections on cultivation, he began to believe in eldest Shixiang, trusting in this hardy, strong, and unusually persistent eldest Shixiang. An individual who was willing to be a servant to search for the path of the sword, to hunt monkey swarms alone to comprehend sword essence. In Zhuo Mo's view, the worldly apparition that eldest Shixiang had caused at his Zhuji was not the proof of eldest Shixiang's shocking talent, but the reward the heavens had given him, the reward for persisting and searching through hardship but remaining as determined as when he had first started. A reward for forgetting himself and accumulating wounds. A reward for his days and nights of toiling labor. How could an eldest Shixiang like this be defeated? He was a man that was like iron. Chapter 404, Xie Shan's Ling Power. There was no graveness to Zhuo Mo's demeanor, only calmness. He hadn't wanted to interfere in the conflict between Shan Weiming and Ren Qing. He only decided to act when he really couldn't bear Ren Qing's actions any longer. But he had only intended to give the other a lesson with his reprimands. However, when the three Ren family elders appeared, Ren Qing's words and the completely unreasonable protectiveness of the three old men made it clear to Zhuo Mo what would happen next. Resolve the dispute in peace, to believe that was naive. Battles of blood had already hardened Zhuo Mo into a person who did not hesitate, so the moment his hands moved he had killed Ren Qing. Since the two sides were drawing their weapons to fight, then he would uproot the entire plant and not leave any roots behind. In Zhuo Mo's eyes, this wasn't some private conflict, this was a battle. In battle, if it was not your death, then it was mine. Even if they defeated these people, he would order Vermilion Bird Camp and Guard Camp to raise the Ren family. He didn't want to leave any hidden problems behind. They were going to stay here for a long time. In Zhuo Mo's view, leaving behind a family that had enmity towards them, who wanted to take revenge, was not any different than seeking death. In battle, any illusions of innocence and luck were the cause of death. Zhuo Mo's relaxed expression increasingly caused Su Zhengwei's heart to beat wildly. However, more of his attention was attracted by the fierce combat. It was usually rare to see battle between Jindan Xiuzhe. It had to be said that with eldest Ren's skill on the wood element and adding on that he had more Ling power than Wei Sheng, when he pushed, Wei Sheng instantly felt pressured. Against eldest Ren's assault the endless void retreated like the tide to between Wei Sheng and eldest Ren. Familiar with their eldest brother, second Ren and third Ren's faces changed slightly. The purest wood element power that big brother usually treasured was now flooding out without any frugality. He was like a gigantic tree, a tree whose vitality was burning. The green color flowed through the void sword essence quickly spread towards Wei Sheng, connecting the two sides. Big brother was going all out. No matter the result of this battle, big brother would have lost a large portion of his vitality. The two were sad and furious. In unison, they released their most powerful attacks. The fiery third Ren started first. With a vicious laugh, his arms curved and his hands curling back as he took a strange stance. Whoosh! A bird of fire the size of a fist flew out of the flame. This bird of fire had bright red feathers, its expression was intelligent, and every time it flapped its wings, a shower of dazzling and burning sparks fell. The fire bird made a clear sound, then it angrily leapt at the paired mirage sword that was striking down. It suddenly opened its beak. A blinding red light accurately struck Xie Shan's paired mirage swords. Under the attack of this red light, the unstoppable paired mirage light seemed to have been struck with a paralysis seal. It was forcibly stopped in the air. That fire bird was extremely intelligent, and started to pull the paired mirage back. When the red light struck the paired mirage sword, Xie Shan seemed to have been burned by a red-hot piece of metal. The thread of connection between him and the paired mirage sword had become a fraction weaker. Xie Shan's expression became slightly ugly. Darren had bestowed upon him this paired mirage sword which he treasured it. Now that it was damaged by another, his anger could be imagined. Furious, Xie Shan's Ling power seemed to boil like water. He couldn't help but howl. The long howl that contained Ling power vibrated like thunder. Of the Jindan on Zhuo Mo's side, Xie Shan was the weakest, even though he was the first to reach Jindan. Even compared to Zhong Ru, he was weaker, much less when compared to Wei Sheng and Zhuo Mo. Zhong Ru possessed the wish power that everyone feared and cultivated the wondrous, attainment golden body, while the sword scripture Xie Shan cultivated was normal. Even though he also studied clear sky sword scripture, it was not exactly suited for him, so he had not gained much. But there was one quality that none of the others could rival Xie Shan at, Ling power. Long ago in Ningmai, his Ling power had reached an astonishing 180 Jing. He almost broke through Jindan just through the accumulation of Ling power. No one had expected that this seemingly stupid method that relied on accumulation had given him a great benefit when he broke into Jindan. That was Ling power. He had close to 200 Jing of Ling power when he made his Jindan breakthrough, which allowing his breakthrough process to be a smooth one. As his cultivation stage increased, his Ling power furiously increased. This astounding increase continued for a long time. Even now, the rate had slowed, but it still steadily increased. What no one also knew was that the amount of Ling power in Xia Shan's body was 800 Jing. Compared to the past, it was more than 4 times. The maximum amount of Ling power for a first stratum Jindan was 1000 Jing. Xia Shan's cultivation was almost at the top of a first stratum Jindan. Just having broken through to Jindan and already nearing second stratum, not many would believe it if word spread. The 800 Jing of Ling power meant that he was the only one that did not lose out in terms of cultivation against these 3 old men. The 3 Ren family elders had been famed for many years, and had broken through to Jindan decades ago. Eldest Ren's cultivation even reached second stratum Jindan. His Ling power was so abundant that, normally, it wasn't something that these juniors who just entered Jindan could compete with. Yet who would have thought that Xia Shan, who had forcibly entered Jindan based on the abundance of his Ling power, was this kind of freak? The paired mirage sword, that was restrained by the stream fire that the firebird was sprouting, lit up. It suddenly twisted and tore out of the firebird's restraint. The firebird was also very intelligent. Seeing the paired mirage sword, it let out a call, its wings flapping, and crashed towards the paired mirage sword like a flash of fire. At this time, the paired mirage sword was like a serpent freed from its cage. The light released from the sword continuously increased. In a blink, the 2 flying swords were shrouded in a dazzling and blinking light. They were like 2 balls of light that were entwining in the air. Due to the strength of the light, even the multicolored light became as white as the sun. The flying swords were vibrating, caused by the Ling power flooding in. Xia Shan's body was also uncontrollably shaking. Fury, excitement, and other feelings were mixed together and caused Xia Shan to grin. Since his other moves would not work, then he would just fight based on Ling power. A dark and vicious smile on his face, insanity and fierceness flashed through Xia Shan's eyes. The vicious light in Third Ren's eyes rose. He snickered, "You want to compete on Ling power? You're seeking death." He spread his arms out and did not hold back any bit of Ling power. This young person wanted to compete based on Ling power with him. He had never seen anyone more stupid. Third Ren decided to burn this person into ashes with this one move. The flame over his body grew with a whoosh. Even his face was covered by the thick flames. Talismans that were of lower quality on his body could not withstand such a high temperature and were melted and burned to ashes by the flames. Firebird barrage. The words were said slowly as though they took all the power he had to push out the words. Pew! A firebird came out. Following right after it was another firebird. At an astounding rate, firebirds appeared one after another. With so many flying out of the flames, it was as though there were countless birds hidden within the flames. When a firebird came out of the flame, they flapped their wings and like a dash of fire, and shot at the paired mirage sun, that was floating like a miniature sun in the sky. In an instant, the firebirds were like rain, covering the sky and hiding the sun. Sparks scattered downwards. Even the air was ignited, explosions ringing in the air. When the sparks landed on the gold starshine rock, they created wisps of green smoke with a pop, and little holes appeared on the tile. The starshine rock that had been smooth like glass had instantly become pockmarked with numerous little dots. Xia Shan was not afraid. Having survived that hell-like battlefield, Xia Shan's heart was as hard as stone. Even if a blade was right at his eyes, his heart would not shake at all. As the firebirds covered the sky and filled his vision, the boiling Ling power caused the objects in his view to become slightly twisted. He was not affected at all. Boil. My Ling power. He seemed to murmur as though he was talking in his dreams. The 800 jing of Ling power inside his body was like burning lava that rampaged and flowed within the little flying swords. The flying swords seemed to hear his words, vibrating and humming to respond to him. Xia Shan had never felt that he had such power, and also never felt so weak before. There wasn't a drop of Ling power left in his body at all. If one looked closely, they would find that there were other lights mixed within the two little miniature suns. The hair-thin gold light was, gold strands, the faint mist that was like the rainbow after rain was, rainbow mist. The 4 formation techniques on the pear mirage sword were all activated. The 2 blinding miniature suns merged into one and became an even more blinding ball of light. Xia Shan gazed at Third Ren within the fire, grinned, and then his expression became stern. Break! The shout that did not have Ling power behind it and did not seem to be a threat at all. But this shout that had no presence caused everyone's hearts to shake simultaneously. A ruler straight beam of light shot forth. A blinding white light beam that seemed to have been drawn with a ruler. The light penetrated the firebirds covering the sky and into the flames. Time seemed to stop in this moment. The firebirds flying in the sky paused briefly. A passage with the thickness of a wrist formed cut through the dense crowd of firebirds. Dozens of firebirds only had half a body left as they froze in the air. The flames were burning, still hissing and cracking. Above the flame, a hole the size of a wrist had a smooth opening. Through the hole, it was possible to see the pitted floor tiles. Pia! Suddenly, one of the firebirds that only had half a body left turned into a ball of flame. Pia, another firebird also followed in exploding into a ball of flame. These 2 firebirds that exploded was like the sparks thrown into a barrel of dynamite. Boom! Countless blinding balls of fire red lit up. All of the firebirds exploded together. The tongues of flame instantly swallowed up the position of both combatants. Boom! Another enormous explosion came from the flames. From between the explosions came a faintly gold figure. Zhuo Mo's face was covered in dust and disheveled. Being held in his hands was a barely breathing Xia Shan. Escaping from his death, Xia Shan did not seem terrified. He murmured gently, so exhilarating. He then said to himself, idiot, don't you know that GE's flying swords are 5th grade? Xia Shan's vision darkened and he fainted. Unconsciousness, Xia Shan still tightly held on to the 2 little golden swords. Chapter 445, Ren Cloud Island Bam. A glowing snake-like stream of water flowed at high speed suddenly exploded against the wall. The stream of water instantly turned into countless beads of water that scattered in all directions. The water that splashed on the ground squirmed as though they were alive moving along the floor. The water drops quickly gathered in one location. In a short time, they had once again merged into a figure made out of water. Second Ren was amazed. The power of this man was deep. When this man punched, there was no fist energy, no sound, it was calm and ordinary. But no matter how he dodged, he could not avoid it. When the fist struck his body would be scattered. But if it was just that, he would not be afraid. Water was shapeless. No matter how strong the other's punches were, even if it could scatter his body into tiny beads of water, he could gather himself back together without taking any damage. He had defeated many opponents by relying on this undying method. But the other's fists were very strange. Each time his body was destroyed, there would be a strange power that entered into his body. This power was as thin as a hair, it was strange and unpredictable. He had never seen it before. This caused him to have a foreboding feeling. Even worse was that he could not get near the other at all. The other's fists were terrifyingly accurate. None of his punches would miss. The shock that Second Ren felt could be imagined. He knew how agile he was, as any flying swords that were slightly slower than him could not hit him. This young Diana Xiao in front of him was not simple. Second Ren stared tightly at his opponent, killing intent spreading inside. He made a decision. Even at the cost of being wounded, he had to kill this person. There had never been a person that dared to step on the Ren family's pride so. There had never been a person who dared to harm one hair on a member of the Ren family. Thinking about how Ren Qing had died, Ren Yu felt great sorrow. He and his two brothers only had this one granddaughter. Now even this granddaughter was killed. They should die. All of these people should die. The water essence on his body circulated unusually smoothly. The crooked water channeling spell, that he had cultivated for many years, now showed signs of a breakthrough. But Second Ren did not feel any joy at all. There was only one thought in his mind: kill the other person. At this time, he suddenly heard an enormous explosion coming from Third Ren's direction. There was a rolling red ball of fire. His chest suddenly felt great pain. Third brother was dead. Second Ren looked away staring angrily at the explosion and fiercely roared like a wild animal. Go die. Suddenly, his body froze, his expression solidifying on his face. The water that shrouded his body stopped flowing. Slender threads resembling blood appeared on the surface of his water. His vision quickly became blurred, and the sound of battle became distant to him. His mind started to blur. The blood threads that had spread like a spider web across his body suddenly lit up. Pew! The ball of water turned to a ball of white mist and rose up. When the water mist dissipated, there was nothing left at that spot. The indifference and emptiness in Zhong Ru's eyes quickly faded. He panted lightly, and an indiscernible expression of exhaustion appeared at his brow. He sighed inside. He was really too weak still. He couldn't even tolerate the preliminary stage of attainment golden body. However, what really had been effective just now was wish power. If it wasn't for his wish power, he most likely would not have defeated Second Ren. He flew next to Zhuimo and without speaking, he closed his eyes and started to recover. In a blink, 2 of the 3 Ren family elders were killed. Su Jingwei's face paled in shock. What were those strange lines of blood? Su Jingwei's heart felt cold. He rejoiced that he had not helped the 3 Ren family elders just now. Looking at the present situation, the Ren family was going to be finished. Even though eldest Ren was still in a standoff with that young sword Xiu, but there was still one person on the other side that had not acted yet. The conclusion was clear. He didn't know where this group of outrageously powerful young people that was had sprouted out of. Each of them was deep in power. Greatly impacted, Su Jingwei's mind worked rapidly. He didn't have any sympathy for the fall of the Ren family. The Ren family was usually arrogant and ostentatious. He wondered if these young people were going to settle down here for the long term or were they just passing by. If they were settling down for the long term, the power balance of Su Ling City was going to change. Having lived for a long time in Su Ling City, Su Jingwei knew as long as it was not outrageous, Su Ling sect would not act. He decided if the other was going to settle down, then he definitely had to make a good connection with the other. He didn't worry about the Cloud Pavilion. With his understanding of the young master of the Cloud Pavilion, the other would not be so stupid to become enemies with such a powerful group of lawless brutes of unknown origins. Just as Su Jingwei was thinking, the situation changed again. Wei Xing's eyes showed a hint of disappointment. He shook his head gently. Pity. As he finished speaking, he raised his head. Without any sound, the void sword essence pushed against the furiously growing flora, turning it into dust at an astounding rate and returning it to nothingness. The empty sword essence destroyed the last bit of green. The sword essence moved like a corrosive poison. It started to spread along the strong green vines. Everywhere it passed, the green vines crumbled into dust until nothing was left. Eldest Ren could not make a sound, and didn't have the time to react. Like a statue, in front of everyone, he was swallowed by the sword essence and also turned to nothingness. Clink. A ring fell to the ground. Even though he was prepared to make a good relationship with the other, Su Zhengwei was still shocked by the scene in front of him. The Cloud Pavilion's guards and shopkeepers were all pale as they shook in the corner. When they saw this group clean up the battlefield taking their spoils, as though no one else was present, their lips couldn't help but tremble. Such a natural display, if they were not brutes that had went through rains of blood, they would definitely not have this demeanor. When Shang Wei-ming woke up, he found he was unharmed. He showed a dazed expression. When he was informed that the 3 Ren family elders were killed, his head rang and his mind blanked. Zuo did not give him the time to digest it, asking straightforwardly, "Where is the Ren family estate?" The spoils of victory from the 3 Ren family elders' bodies were pitifully few. Other than 3 jade scrolls, Zuo did not find any of importance or significance. Fighting against such powerful enemies, how could they not gain anything? Mind blown, Shang Wei-ming instinctively answered, "At Ren Cloud Island." When the words left his mouth, his mind suddenly cleared and his face changed. So malicious. Su Zhengwei's heart also shook, but he was not as shocked as Shang Wei-ming. In battles of life and death like this, the conclusion would frequently be like this. Ren Cloud Island. Zuo's eyes lit up. He hurriedly asked, "How big is it?" "Almost 50,000 mu, it is the biggest intermediate-sized cloud island nearby." Shang Wei-ming hurriedly answered. Ren Cloud Island is in a good position and the flowing cloud silk that the island produces is famous in this region. Zuo's drool almost spilled out. More than 40,000 mu, that was a value of more than 40,000 pieces of third-grade jingsha. Zuo, who had needed a place to settle down, immediately became excited. Go, go, go. Let's go see now. The Ren Cloud Island was a flight of 4 hours from the main island. Zuo took the black turtle along when he flew to the Ren Cloud Island. When they reached Ren Cloud Island, they found that this cloud island was slightly different than other cloud islands. There were many balls of clouds floating in the sky above the cloud island. These clouds almost completely shrouded the cloud island. It was not possible to see the condition of the island. Zuo found it interesting and wanted to go near to study it. Once he came near, these slowly moving clouds seemed to be frightened and rippled intensely. In a blink, the snowy white clouds became inky black. Hiss crack. Inside the black clouds, electrical snakes slithered and blinding lights occasionally appeared. Deep thunder could be heard inside the thick black clouds and lightning shot over. Zuo jumped in fright. He hurriedly activated light void wings and fled. Boom! A bolt of lightning with the thickness of a wrist flashed past his previous position and reflected on Zuo's pale little face. If he was struck by such a thick bolt of lightning, then half of his little life would be gone. At this time, everyone's face became serious. Even Gong Sun Cha's expression was slightly ugly. To forcibly take this cloud island, they would have to pay a high price. Shang Wei-ming hurried to remind, "Boss, use the island card." Having escaped with his life from the hands of the Ren family, he was very grateful to Zuo. He was very clear that if he landed in the hands of Ren Qing, his fate would be worse than death. Due to his gratefulness, he tried to help all he could. Island card? Zuo stilled. He recalled that there was a jade card among the things he had taken from the 3 old men's bodies. He hurriedly took it out. There was a cloud engraved on the surface of the jade card. The back of the card was engraved with all kinds of formation scripts. Zuo's consciousness swept the island card. He instantly understood. This island card was used to control the formations on the cloud island. Zuo channeled Ling power and shouted, "Open." The jade card in his hand shot out a beam of light that entered the thick cloud layer. The black cloud layer that had been rumbling with thunder instantly quieted. The black clouds became white clouds again. The cloud layer retreated to the sides and a broad path appeared in front of them. Mo was overjoyed. He flew down first. The other people seeing the situation followed behind. The arrival of Mo's group caused a ruckus on the island. However, when Shang Wei-ming announced in a loud voice that the 3 Ren family elders were dead, and the Ren Cloud Island had changed owners, these people calmed down. Most of them were hired workers, not servants. To them, they just changed employers. If this boss wasn't good, they could leave. Darren, are we going to stay here in the future? Lei Peng asked in a rumbling voice. What? Not satisfied? Satisfied. Very satisfied. Lei Peng rubbed his hands, his face full of excitement. Staying every day in the Black Turtle, and's bored to death. This place is both big and good, everyone was very excited. They had a new territory. This group of battle maniacs had a desire for territory like the desire men had towards women. They had been reluctant to part with the Golden Crow City. Then they had roamed and killed after that. Now that they finally had territory that belonged to them, the excitement they felt could be imagined. Without waiting for Mo to speak, this group sprinted in all directions. Mo raised his head. The sky was clear for 10,000 li. He couldn't help but tsk in wonder. Looking at the island from the outside, there were layers of clouds blocking their view and nothing of the island could be seen. But looking from the island out, nothing was covered. As expected, this was a good place. Mo was very content. Chapter 446, A Shocking Statistic. From today onwards, this Cloud Island's name is changed to Turtle Island. Mo announced in satisfaction. No one below responded, but they all looked at each other. A beat later, the most daring of them, Lei Peng, weakly responded, Darren, why call this Turtle Island? What? You feel this name isn't good enough? Mo angled a stare at him as he drawled. No. No. Lei Peng hurriedly waved his hand, his face red before he said weakly, just that, this name, it isn't, flashy. The other people were all distressed. Mo snorted and said with disdain, a 1,000-year tortoise, a 10,000-year turtle, ever heard this before? Heard this? People nodded their heads. The longer one lives, the more profit one can make, Mo warned everyone in a meaningful tone. Look at those flashy guys, show-offs, all of them are short-lived, why? Because they are eye-catching. What was that phrase? Mo couldn't recall it and thought with a furrowed brow. Say what? The people below stretched their necks and waited for his next words. Oh, I remember. Mo's mind became alert. He spread his arms, looked at the sky and dragged his words in a tone that created goosebumps to recite with emotion. His outstanding figure was so dazzling among the crowd, like a sun, he was unable to be ignored. Everyone shuddered, their hairs standing on end. Mo turned his head down and his gaze swept the crowd of confused people. His tone became normal as he picked out Lei Peng to ask, if there was a person like this among the enemy, what would you do? Kill him as soon as possible. Lei Peng glared murderously. Why kill him first? Mo lead him along. A person like this is either an expert or a leader, they have higher, strategic value. Lei Peng stammered out. Under Lil Miss high-pressure training, learning combat tactics became a necessary class for every member of Vermilion Bird Camp. Even a rough man like Lei Peng could casually speak a few phrases. You are right. Mo praised Lei Peng and said amusedly, the spear strikes the bird that pops up first, that is the moral. The more low-key you are, the longer you can live. The longer you live, the more you can make. A name like Turtle Island that doesn't catch the attention is suitable for us. Our method is to first be low-key, pretend to be weak, and then, you know. Everyone realized and nodded their heads hard, their eyes gleaming with light. They looked at each other and smiled evilly at each other. We understand. Coincidentally walking in at the same moment, Shang Wei-ming's cold sweat flowed down. He really wanted to tell Darren what a large influence killing the three Ren family elders would have on Su Ling City's inhabitants. Su Ling City was most likely in an uproar at this moment. No matter how low-key or weak they pretended to be, no one would believe them. Of course, these words only spun in his mind. He smartly closed his mouth. Boss definitely had boss reasons for doing a thing. A little character like him definitely could not understand the profound meaning of boss action. He already knew that boss wasn't just a boss. This was a classic combat troupe. However, that had nothing to do with him. No matter what the other had him do, he would unhesitatingly do it, even at the risk of his own life. When the evil laughs in the room decreased, he reported the assets of Turtle Island to Zhuemo. Darren, we have finished our survey. When Zhuemo held the result, his eyes were wide. The area of Turtle Island was 47,000 mu. Zhuemo had to sigh that Turtle Island was, as expected, one of the largest islands of the intermediate-sized islands. The next string of statistics caused Zhuemo to start drooling. There were 15,000 mu of Ling fields on the island, of which 10,000 were third-grade Ling fields and another 3,000 were fourth-grade Ling fields. Seeing such enormous numbers, his thoughts almost diverged. The entire Wukong sword sect had never had so many Ling fields in the past, much less third-grade Ling fields. Such a large amount of third-grade Ling fields was enough to support a sizable sect. Adding on that the 3,000 mu of fourth-grade Ling fields was an enormous sum of wealth. They had struck it rich. Deliriously happy, Zhuemo's gaze moved down and then he suddenly froze. 10,000 mu third-grade Ling fields, but they only had 30 Ling plant farmers. 30 Ling plant farmers. Compared to the enormous amount of Ling fields, the number of Ling plant farmers was not enough. 30 Ling plant farmers, not one of them had the summer flower jade metal, they were all spring sprout Ling plant farmers. This meant that almost 10,000 mu of the third-grade Ling fields were in fallow. A spring spout level Ling plant farmer could only plant and care for 50 mu of third-grade Ling fields at maximum for a total of 1,500 mu. On their hands, the fourth-grade Ling fields were an even larger waste, and could not reach their full potential. Thinking about the 10,000 Ling fields being in a state of waste, Zhuemo instantly felt pain. Is it hard to hire Ling plant farmers? Zhuemo asked Shang Wei-ming. Shang Wei-ming shook his head. Not easy. Even though many roaming Xiao have come recently, but there still aren't many Ling plant farmers. Many families are recruiting Ling plant farmers. Zhuemo bared his teeth with a painful expression. He secretly noted down this problem. Wastefulness was shameful. Zhuemo quickly found that it wasn't just the Ling fields that were not being utilized to their full capacity. There were 36 Ling springs on the island, but only 6 were being used, and even then they only raised very normal kinds of animals. There were 3 Ling lakes on the island, but not even one of them was in use. Each Ling lake was surrounded by weeds. Supposedly, the 3 Ren family elders were not interested in the Ling lakes at all, and hadn't even cleared out the weeds. The one asset developed the most was a cave on the island, Snow Silkworm Cave. This cave was extremely deep and cold. There was a herd of snow cloud silkworms living in the cave. The silk that the snow cloud silkworms produced were flowing cloud silk. This was an upper 4th grade material and was easy to sell. The flowing cloud silk was the biggest source of annual income on the island. There were many other caves on the island, but none of them had been explored and used. When Zhuemo finished reading the report, his first feeling was, the Ren family was really wasteful. His second feeling, they had really struck it rich. But the first decision Mo made was to order everyone to explore the entire Turtle Island. With this kind of slacker mentality from the three Ren family elders, Mo felt that the possibility they had missed good things was very high. 47,000 mu was not a small area. How to set up defenses was also a problem. This headache would be given to Gongsun Cha to deal with. Mo's thoughts were completely focused on how to use the resources of Turtle Island. The Ren family was killed. Really? How can the Ren family be killed? They have 3 Jindan. It's true. I heard that only 3 people in the group fought and there was another that watched. Miss Ren also died, she was the cause of the conflict. I've said it before. With Miss Ren's personality, she would cause the Ren family to die. The heavens really sent a blessing this time. But we need to be careful in the short term. People that casually killed the Ren family are not ones that us little people can provoke. Just as Shang Wei Ming had predicted, Su Ling City was in an uproar over the news that the Ren family was destroyed. The Cloud Islands near Turtle Island acted as though they were facing a great enemy, fearing that this group of unknown origins had malicious intents towards them. At the Tian family, the elders that were in charge gathered together in a hall with serious expressions. I hadn't thought that the Ren family would be destroyed like this. Tian Yongqing sighed. The 3 Ren family Jindan gone like this. The world has changed too quickly. Don't speak of useless things. Tian Hengbo had an unconcerned expression. This group of unknown origins have taken over the Ren Cloud Island, that is land that we have planned to obtain. 15,000 mu of Ling fields with more than 3,000 mu of 4th grade Ling fields, the rest are all 3rd grade Ling fields. Not to speak of the flowing cloud silk produced on the island, the Ren family got rich based on just that. If we can have Ren Cloud Island, our power would immediately go up a level, another elder said. I hadn't expected that a group of outsiders got ahead of us. Everyone was silent. The Tian family was most skilled Ling farming and their desire of Ling fields was much greater than other families. They had been planning for a long time and were preparing to take Ren Cloud Island soon. But Mo's group had appeared out of nowhere and gotten there before them. Do not move rashly, Tian Yongqing said after a moment of thought. We do not know the origins of this group. If we move now, it is hard to predict the results. Should we send someone to ask if they sell this island? The price can be negotiated. Who would be so dumb to sell such a good place? Tian Hengbo did not believe it. That might not be the case, Tian Yongqing said with a smile, no matter how many Ling fields they have, without Ling plant farmers, they can only go to waste. The only thing the other might be reluctant to part with is the flowing cloud silk. The elders smiled. About 7/10 of the Ling plant farmers on the Su Ling city market worked for the Tian family. The third grandpa of the Tian family was skilled in Ling farming and was a high-level Ling planter farmer with a autumn fruit jade metal. These Ling plant farmers mostly wanted to improve, so they entered the Tian family. Possessing the highest number of Ling plant farmers, the Tian family's desire for Ling fields was also the highest, but the Cloud Island with the most Ling fields near Su Ling City did not belong to the Tian family, but was Ren Cloud Island. If it is like that, it might not be impossible, another elder spoke, maybe we can use Star Cloud Island to trade. There is a 4th grade Star Cloud metal mine on the island, and it isn't lacking compared to the flowing cloud silk. Hiss, many elders inhaled sharply. That Star Cloud metal mine produced good 4th grade Star Cloud metal, and was one of the important sources of income for the Tian family. This price is too high. Tian Hengbo had a pained expression. Tian Yongqing waved his hand. Do not hurry. They have just arrived. If it wasn't for that Ren Qing being stupid and provoked them, they wouldn't be so arrogant and aggressive. Right now, we shall observe and slowly come into contact with them. If they use force, an elder said in worry. Tian Yongqing lightly laughed. If they think that because they destroyed the Ren family, they can provoke our Tian family, that is their death day. Looking at the puzzlement on everyone's faces, Tian Yongqing said faintly, after 1 or 2 months, eldest grandfather is coming out of seclusion. The elders paused and then showed ecstasy. Tian Yongqing seemed to feel that one piece of good news wasn't enough and continued, the other good news is that our Tian family battalion, Tian Yi, is coming back. It was deathly silent. Many elders showed terror. Chapter 447, On the island Zhuo Mo inspected Ague and showed a hint of joy. The vitality in Ague's eyes had grown a bit. She no longer looked dead. Compared to the recent past, the purple energy inside her body had doubled. Ague's change was wonderful, Zhuo Mo was happy. Staring at this still wooden face, for some unknown reason, Zhuo Mo felt slight heartache. If she hadn't had to save him, Ague wouldn't be in an abnormal condition like this, not human or ghost. Even though Zhuo Mo did not know why Ague would make such a sacrifice for him, but no matter what, the debt of saving his life was significant enough for Zhuo Mo to be willing to repay it with his own death. It would only be another half a year, then they would find the water cloud embryo and Ague's wounds would heal. Thinking about this, Zhuo Mo couldn't help but be filled with hope towards the future. Now that they had Turtle Island, he could truly be considered to have his own property. Just that 10 and some odd thousand mu of Ling fields was enough for him to support all this people. They had pretty much settled down on the island. What was left was to manage all this. This had to be slowly worked on. Everyone, including himself, was born poor, and it was their first time to managing such an enormous place. However, Zhuo Mo was not afraid. Gu had marched through the storm of blood, and wasn't afraid of a little matter like this. Zhuo Mo's heart felt very sweet. After Chen Yuqing finished visiting the last Ling Spring, he couldn't help but sigh, this really is a good place. Gazing at the serene and cold Ling Spring, he felt happy inside. This Ling Spring was a 4th-grade Ling Spring. Most likely due to its proximity to the snow silkworm cave, the water was unusually cold. When he put his hand into the spring, his entire arm had almost frozen instantly. It was the first time Chen Yuqing had seen such a good quality Ling Spring and his happiness could be imagined. This was the 3rd 4th-grade Ling Spring he had visited and the other Ling Springs were 3rd grade. Even though the quality of each Ling Spring was different, but all of them were clean and high-quality Ling Springs. There were many uses for good Ling Springs. They were especially suitable for raising some water element Ling beasts, or planting some special Ling grass. All water methods required good Ling Springs. In those secret paradises, Ling Springs were something that could not be absent. With these Ling Springs, he had enough confidence to raise excellent Ling beasts. His knowledge of the beast pool was far deeper than when he first started, but there had been many ideas that he could not test due to the lack of conditions. He had never imagined there would be a day that he would truly have the conditions to study just because he wanted to. So when he knew that there were many Ling Springs on the island, he hurriedly ran over to inspect them one by one. The results left him overjoyed. The conditions on the island and the quality of these Ling Springs surpassed their imagination. He had never thought there would really be a day that he could have this kind of conditions. He felt as though he was dreaming. Please don't wake up from this dream. Chen Yuqing murmured to himself. So is this the snow silkworm cave? Ji Qingwei poked his head into the cave and looked curiously. Yes, Darren. The one leading the way was a supervisor. The flowing cloud silk that the snow silkworm cave produced was the primary source of income from the island. The Ren family had placed great importance on it due to this and hired a supervisor specifically to be responsible for managing the snow silkworm cave. The deep cave was completely black. A gust of wind suddenly blew inside the cave and the people passing by all shuddered. So cold. My heavens! What place is this? The group of Golden Crow Camp exclaimed. This gust of wind was biting to the bone. Even at the entrance of the cave, they felt it was unbearable. The supervisor was used to seeing this and was not shocked. He explained, "The snow silkworm cave is extremely deep. The place that the snow silkworms live is about 200 zhang from the cave entrance and no one has gone any deeper. After 300 zhang, it really is too cold, Ningmai that go in there would become ice cubes after 10 breaths. We will not go to those deep places when we harvest the silk." Everyone's faces were slightly pale. Ningmai would become ice cubes in 10 breaths, how cold would that be? They were all users of fire and did not like this type of extreme coldness the most. After taking a look around, everyone retreated in unison. "Are there fire caves nearby?" Master Sun Bao asked. "Yes." The supervisor hurriedly nodded. His attitude was very respectful. With the change of the employer, many things would likely change, like his position as supervisor. He did not want to lose this job. "Where?" Ji Wei's eyes lit up as he asked. The Golden Crow camp was most skilled in forging. Even though they all had Golden Crow fire now, but fire caves were still of great help to them. "It is a place that third master cultivated in before, called Fierce Yang Cave," the supervisor said. "Take us there." The procession quickly reached the entrance to the Fierce Yang Cave. Compared to the other caves, this cave appeared much cleaner. There was a layer of fire clasts. The red-black fire clasts were not high grade, just second grade, and were a kind of commonly seen fire lava rock. The air at the entrance twisted under the high temperature as waves of heat erupted from inside the cave. Everyone felt the pressuring heat from a long way off. Their eyes instantly lit up. Xiuzhe that practiced fire techniques liked all kinds of fire. They were not afraid of the fire's high temperature, but rather were afraid that the temperature wasn't high enough. When they saw the scene at the entrance of the fiery Yang Cave, everyone knew the temperature inside this fiery Yang Cave was extremely high. Sun Bao was relatively composed. He shouted to call back those Xiuzhe that were eager and did not allow them to charge in on their own. The fiery Yang Cave was their territory, they did not need to hurry and could progress slowly and cautiously, taking proper precautions to avoid any accidents happening. When they learned that there was only one fire cave on this island, even Sun Bao lost interest in the other caves. The fiery Yang Cave was the existence they were the most interested in. The island was very busy, and it was not quite in Suling City either. The killing of the 3 Ren family elders had come people clapping and naturally had others who were discontent. As Xiuzhe came in from the outside, the tensions between local and immigrating Xiuzhe rose daily. The death of the 3 Ren family elders caused this conflict to increase, especially when the local Xiuzhe found that Su Ling's sect did not listen or inquire about the matter. This caused them to become even more discontent. No matter how wrong the 3 Ren family elders were in the matter, they were still Xiuzhe of Suling City. Many local Xiu became angry when they discussed how the Ren family was destroyed, that Su Ling's sect did not respond, and had allowed the Ren Cloud Island to be occupied. Some placed their hopes on the Cloud Pavilion. Everyone knew the background of the Cloud Pavilion. This time, the entire store had been destroyed, and the losses were very great as there were many talismans that were damaged or lost. According to the conduct of the Cloud Pavilion, no one believed that the Cloud Pavilion would not make a sound. Compared to the Cloud Pavilion, the Ren family was just a little ant. Many people said if it wasn't for the fact that the Ren family produced flowing cloud silk, the shopkeeper of the Suling City Cloud Pavilion wouldn't even look at the Ren family. This shopkeeper hoped to get more flowing cloud silk from the Ren family to raise his own contributions. Who would have known that in showing favoritism he offended such a ruthless group of brutes and almost lost his little life? The counterattack from the Cloud Pavilion would definitely be very strong. Just a few Jindan and they wanted to face the Cloud Pavilion, that was daydreaming. Some local families also moved in the dark. The Cloud Island of the Ren family was very rich. In this time, turbulence flowed under the surface. The large formation of Turtle Island was the Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation. The defensive power of this large formation was outstanding and especially suited to a large island like Turtle Island. The Ren family had spent a great sum to invite an expert to set up this Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation. But in the eyes of Zhuemo, who liked to make sneak attacks, this large formation was not so safe. People that liked to make sneak attacks usually were the ones that guarded against sneak attacks the most. Zhuemo patiently examined the defensive formation of Turtle Island. Bases and patrols were the territory of Lil Tamis, but formations, only Zhuemo could do this. In Zhuemo's eyes, this Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation was grandiose but was not useful, and only had a good appearance. It seemed to appear powerful, but if it encountered a strong enemy, it would likely collapse. The person who had set up the formation clearly did not have good intentions. He had left a few back doors inside the formation. The muddle-headed Ren family had not detected it, but how could it escape the fiery eyes of Zhuemo? Zhuemo did not erase the back doors, and instead used them as bait. He slightly modified the formation scripts near the dark doors. The dark doors did not look any different than before, but if the other entered through the back door, he. Zhuemo had an evil smile. Of course, this wasn't enough. In his eyes, the Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation could only act as a thin shell, and was far from a sturdy turtle shell. They had to live up to the name. With this thought, Zhuemo started a major project. To increase the power of the Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation, Zhuemo planted that sonic lightning walnut tree at the heart of the formation. The 4th grade sonic lightning walnut tree was not as valuable as it was in the past, but it was a lightning wood element material. Placed in the center of the formation, it could greatly increase the power of the large formation. Other than this, Golden Crow camp that was targeting the fiery Yang cave was pulled over by Zhuemo to be manual laborers. Golden Crow fire took over the island. The burning flames illuminated half of the sky, causing the nearby cloud islands to become nervous. Without exception, they all raised their island formations in fear they would be attacked. The Xiuzha that had remained on the island were dumbstruck upon seeing such a scene. The Ling plant farmers that had started to form plans to leave and became slightly restless ending those thoughts of leaving. There was only one thought in their minds. People with knowledge were everywhere. Someone instantly recognized the 4th grade Golden Crow fire. When the news spread, everyone was filled with motivation. Holy, how many pieces of Jingshi would this be? That number of Jingshi would be enough to buy all of Su Ling City. The production Xiuzha on the island were mostly local Xiuzha. How could they not know what was going on in Su Ling City? They had been worried before that this group would not be able to establish themselves, and lose against those factions that were waiting in the wings, but now they did not worry at all. So many Jingshi, oh, heavens! A rich family. A powerful family. A tycoon. Lacking imagination, they could only think of these scant phrases, but this could not stop the enthusiasm that came out of their hearts. Boss, buy in. Everyone's eyes became as red as rabbits. Chapter 448, The Strong Vermilion Bird Camp. While the attention of the most prominent factions of Su Ling City were focused on this mysterious new faction, this new faction hadn't even stepped a foot out of Ren Cloud Island. Oh, wait. Supposedly the island was now called Turtle Island. The scouts hiding in the shadows outside the island found, to their dismay, that the entirety of Turtle Island was shrouded in clouds and nothing could be seen. Only the lights that occasionally penetrated the thick cloud layer seemed to reaffirm that changes were happening inside the island. Turtle Island was truly changing. Zhuemo did not spare Jingshi for reinforcing the safety of the island. He acted as though he would not rest unless he really made Turtle Island worthy of its name. The lights the scouts outside Turtle Island saw were the lights produced as Zhuemo constructed the island protecting formation. Zhuemo had thought that the Enyang Cloud Thunder Formation was not strong enough and ran to Puyao to demand a new formation. Pu Yao had all kinds of techniques and spells, all of them were spoils of victory from his war campaigns. Naturally, he did not lack protective formations. In the beginning Pu Yao wasn't willing to hand over any formations, as he kept on brooding over the fact that Zhuo Mo's Mo physique was stronger than his Yao arts. Adding on that he hadn't gotten any benefits from this guy, Pu Yao wasn't very eager. But this was a matter of life or death. Zhuo Mo didn't want to have someone sneak in while they were sleeping. He harassed, nagged, and grinded down Pu's resistance, while Wei, the person who wanted the world in chaos, was pouring oil onto the fire. He managed to drag a formation from Pu Yao's hands. Wei started to resume his liveliness, after having lost his motivation. This formation was called the Meridional Azure Ether Formation, and was a 6th grade formation. Supposedly, it was the mountain-protecting formation of a formation sect called the Azure Formation Sect. When Zhuo Mo held the formation scroll, his drool came out. A 6th grade formation, it was a formation he didn't even dare to think about in the past. When he read it in depth, he increasingly felt that this formation was deep and profound. With his skill at formations, he could only understand 30 to 40% of the formation. He saw that, at this speed, without a year or two of study, he could not completely comprehend this formation. But time waits for no man, and there were many eyes staring at them from the outside. Zhuo Mo, realizing this and decided to gather the Golden Crow camp. He gave all of them a copy of the formation. He had a simple thought: since his individual power wasn't enough, then everyone should work on this together. More people meant more strength. It had to be said that this move was effective. These people from Golden Crow camp were not the same people of the past who didn't understand anything. Zhuo Mo never concealed anything about formations from them, and gave them any good formations he had to comprehend. Their study of all kinds of Mo matrices had caused their knowledge and vision to broaden and increased their understanding of formations. They also had an accurate measure of themselves, and knew that their talents were average and were not anything spectacular. Due to this, they put more importance on communicating and cooperating with each other. Even they did not know that they had unwittingly stepped onto a new path that was different than other production shoujo. While it was true their individual strength was not strong, but when they worked together and were skilled at cooperative forging. Gathering everyone's strength to study a formation together was a familiar job for Golden Crow Camp. So when Zhuo Mo handed them the problem, Golden Crow Camp under the leadership of the two masters, Sun Bao and Ji Wei, started to methodically study the Meridional Azure Ether Formation. This was the first time Zhuo Mo attended the collective comprehension process of Golden Crow Camp. Following a requested from Sun Bao, Zhuo Mo first presented what he understood about the formation in detail. After the gathering slowly digested his lecture, the immediately string of reactions caused Zhuo Mo to gape in shock. The Meridional Azure Ether Formation was divided into several parts by the two masters and the members most skilled in formations. Golden Crow Camp also divided into groups to specifically target these parts. Zhuo Mo had a feeling the large formation was dismembered into pieces. Golden Crow Camp quickly showed Zhuo Mo what efficiency was. During the discussions on the second day, several problems that he did not understand were resolved by the group. Each little team reported their progress as well as the problems they encountered. The heated discussion that followed also caused a great shock for Zhuo Mo. The mood was heated, there were people slamming the tables, faces flushed, swearing and shouting, glaring angrily at each other. They almost started fighting physically. The second day was so. The third day was so. The fourth day, the fifth day. On the fifth day, the problems of the formation were all solved. The people of Golden Crow Camp that had just comprehended a 6th grade formation disregarded the astounded Zhuo Mo. They interestedly started to discuss how many variations there were in the Meridional Azure Ether Formation. So he had such a powerful group of people as subordinates. Zhuo Mo's mind was dazed. After the introduction on the first day, Zhuo Mo was like an audience member. The completely deciphered, Meridional Azure Ether Formation, was recombined into a jade scroll along with 20,000 characters of notes. Receiving the jade scroll, Zhuo Mo read the 20,000 characters worth of notes. The profound and deep, meridional azure ether formation, was presented and straightforwardly as though it was an introductory jade scroll. In the 20,000 character notes, it managed to explain almost every seed formation in the meridional azure ether formation. Up until now, Zhuo Mo had never stayed in Golden Crow Camp before. He would only come to deliver new formations, or if he needed to forge something. He had never thought that Golden Crow Camp had grown to such a level. It was fantastical to believe. Shocked, Zhuo Mo could not understand even when he thought for a while. While shocked and dazed, Zhuo Mo had started to set up the formation. The meridional azure ether formation was very complicated and had complex formation scripts, but for Zhuo Mo, who had pretty good perception, these were not major problems. The biggest barrier that Zhuo Mo encountered were the meridional azure ether spikes. The meridional azure ether spikes were the most important weapons in the meridional azure ether formation. Almost half of the Jade Scroll was spent explaining how to forge meridional azure ether spikes, and the secret techniques that were used to forge them in azure ether. The best material to use were gold element materials, and it had to be 4th grade or above. The most suitable were those that were strong and sharp. When they formed, they would be dark azure and extremely powerful. Materials were not a problem for Zhuo Mo, he had a lot of golden crystal sand. The biggest problem was azure ether. He did not have azure ether. Azure ether was an unique mist of the world. It was a rare 5th grade material, was completely azure in color, and belonged to the water element. Zhuo Mo stared. Where could he go to get azure ether? The main body of the formation was completed, and the only thing left was the 108 meridional azure ether spikes. When they were forged, and the meridional azure ether spikes were put into the formation, the entire formation would be completed. Supposedly, the complete meridional azure ether formation could stop the attacks of Yuanying Xiuzhe, and Jindan Xiuzhe couldn't break through at all. Of course, considering that each sect liked to boast, Zhuo Mo did not have that high of hopes for the meridional azure ether formation. He didn't even know what Yuanying Xiuzhe looked like. But even taking that into account, that was enough security. Without any azure ether, Zhuo Mo could only temporarily stop the work on the formation. Just at this time, Xia Shan suddenly ran in. Darren, that old man Su, from last time, is asking to meet you. He is with someone else. Old man Su. Zhuo Mo recalled the scene that day. Old man Su had been pretty courteous the entire time and hadn't acted even at the end. After thinking, he flew into the air. Outside the formation, he saw old man Su. There was also a young and handsome male standing beside him in an azure robe. Mr. Su, welcome to my place, welcome. Welcome. Zhuo Mo put a smile on his face, and raised his folded hands with friendliness. Su Jingwei had been afraid the other would posture. The rock in his heart landed and a smile unconsciously came onto his face. When this old man saw Boss Sua that day, this man knew that Boss Sua wasn't ordinary. Young, talented, and handsome. Let this old man introduce to Boss Sua, this is the young master of the Cloud Pavilion, Mr. Liao Jr. He saw that young person raise his hands in a greeting, and say in an apologetic tone, this one apologizes to Boss Sua. Boss Sua, please have great tolerance about the employees of my store who offended you. As he spoke, his hands moved, and a jade scepter appeared. This 5th grade scepter is this one's token, please, Boss Sua, accept this. Zhuo Mo, naturally, moved to take the jade scepter. He said, Boss Liao is too polite. Come in to sit. He ushered the two into the island. When Boss Liao and Su Jingwei saw the furor of activity on the island, they maintained calmness on their faces but they were shocked inside. Sword lights flashed across the island. There was most likely thousands of people and the factions outside the island were completely ignorant of this. The two were shocked at Zhuo Mo's uncanny move. How could they know the normal-looking black turtle had a great belly? Liao Qichang was alright, but the shock in Su Jingwei was like a storm. He had come to the Ren family island before and had a general impression of the island situation. But the Cloud Island had now been completely transformed and he could not find any traces of the Ren family at all. If it had to be asked what the greatest impression this place gave him, then it was strict. There were sword shio patrolling by all over the sky. Of course, that wasn't strange, but if these sword shio passed over one's head in organized ranks like a blade, the startling feeling in their heart wasn't a pleasurable one to experience. It was possible to see a black mist shrouding a camp in the distance. It was possible to feel the thick killing energy from a great ways off. On this short walk of 5 li, Su Jingwei's expression kept on changing. Liao Qichang showed more calmness, but the shock inside could be seen through the graveness in his eyes. He could see more than Su Jingwei. He was the young master of the Cloud Pavilion and seen countless treasures. There were not many that could rival his eyes. At first glance, he was deeply attracted to the Sonic Lightning Walnut tree. The Sonic Lightning Walnut was just 4th grade, but it was very rare. This Sonic Lightning Walnut tree was already mature. There were a few fruits hanging off it, and the thick power of the hard lightning was wondrous. It was not a wonder to have Sonic Lightning Walnuts, but having the Sonic Lightning Walnut tree was a whole other matter. What were the origins of this group? Liao Qichang thought inside, he was both shocked and suspicious. Chapter 449, Institute of Ling Plants. The conversation with Liao Qichang progressed under a very relaxed mood. Zhuo also requested Liao Qichang to help him search for azure ether, expressing he was willing to buy at a high price. Liao Qichang naturally agreed. After conversing for about 2 hours, Liao Qichang and Su Jingwei stood and bid farewell. Zhuo accompanied them on their way off the island to show them respect. The two of them flew out a long distance before Su Jingwei opened his mouth. What do you think? Liao Qichang's expression was grave. They are not simple. He paused for a beat and then said, look how long we conversed. Did that Zhuo person even give a hint about his origins? This person is secretive, has a group of strong subordinates, and is not a softie. Yes. Su Jingwei's face was emotional. They were really vicious when I saw them destroy the Ren family that day. They definitely did not come from a peaceful place. I still am not clear where they came from, Liao Qichang said, but he has many subordinates, does not lack experts, has vicious conduct, but is not arrogant and domineering, and is as sly as a fox. This kind of a person is one we should not become enemies with. I hear that many people are aiming for them, Su Jingwei said in a low voice. He had lived here for a long time, and naturally had sources to obtain information. We won't enter into it. Liao Qichang shook his head. There are only a few families that can match this group in power. There probably are people manipulating the situation from the shadows, wanting to use others to do their will. Su Jingwei nodded. We really can't touch this kind of matter. It's possible to lose our lives if we aren't careful. Tianyi came back. Liao Qichang suddenly asked. He came back a few days ago. Supposedly, he earned a lot of merits for combat service and got numerous benefits. Su Jingwei was admiring. Just beautiful on the surface, Liao Qichang said dismissively. This Cloud Siege, that none of the 4 rule, even if he went to the front lines, no one will think highly of him. He just has what the large sects let slip through their fingers. Su Jingwei smiled uncertainly. However, Liao Qichang's tone turned and he said sternly, Tianyi battalion is probably harder to deal with after the combat experience. How many battalions does the Tian family have? 3. Other than Tianyi battalion, there is also the Tianwei battalion and the Jiaoxi battalion, Su Jingwei said. In the past, the Tianxi battalion was the most outstanding of the 3, and was considered the second-best battalion in Su Ling City. Oh, who is first? Su Ling Sect's Su Ling Battalion. Ah, that's true. I forgot about Su Ling Sect. Liao Qichong nodded. He then ordered, don't get too near other people in the short term, we will observe from the sidelines. That's reasonable. The young master of the Cloud Pavilion and Su Zhengwei went to Turtle Island. Tian Hengbo ran in excitedly. Oh. Tian Yongqing did not stop what he was doing and said without raising his head, that is very normal, didn't they say that the Cloud Pavilion stopkeep looked down on those people? Of course Liao Qichong would visit to explain, he is a businessman. Should we go find him and ask? Tian Hengbo said. Ask what? We don't know anything. If they went onto the island, they definitely have learned a lot, Tian Hengbo said certainly. They went onto the island but they may not know anything. Tian Yongqing stopped what he was doing and his expression was stern. Also, do not offend Liao Qichong. He is just a businessperson, do you need to be this nervous? Tian Hengbo's expression was rebellious. Tian Yongqing was not affected. If you do not want to cause trouble for our Tian family, do not provoke him. Tian Hengbo finally could not suppress it. Don't allow this, don't allow that, will information just drop down from the sky while we sit here at home? Tian Yongqing thought for a moment and said, tell Gu Xiang Tian about this event. Tian Hengbo's eyes lit up, good idea. Yi Zheng's mood was slightly low. Even though they had left that damned place, he felt the present state was akin to house arrest. He had tried to ask Darren if it was possible to release him back to Great Buddha Temple. As expected, Darren had refused. He did not think that Darren would really release him. He knew too many things that he should not know, like the destruction of a battalion belonging to Kunlun. If there was nothing wrong with Darren's mind, just this one event was enough that he wouldn't be allowed to leave. In reality, he already thanked the heavens and earth the other hadn't killed him yet. Compared to Kunlun, Great Buddha Temple wasn't anything. The other didn't even blink when they killed thousands of Kunlun people in one go. It wouldn't be any hardship, to them, to slice him up. Yi Zheng had a good estimation of himself and had no unrealistic delusions. Due to this, his mood was increasingly bad. He had thought about escaping, but this idea only spun once in his mind before it intelligently disappeared. This group of people seemed cheerful and rambunctious while they were not working hard on their cultivation, but the entire island was strictly managed behind the scenes. Any change in the wind and grass, these people would definitely kill without any questions asked. He might be from Great Buddha Temple, which could be considered a famed sect, but meeting this group of lawless brutes, he did not presume he would have an advantage relying on his background. When he thought about the Jindan on the island and a Dhyana Xiao who had wish power beside him, he obediently did not move. But when could he get all the Ling Dan for eldest Xixiao? He suddenly stopped. Yes, why had he left the mountain? Wasn't it so he could make Ling Dan for eldest Xixiao? Was he unable to make medicine right now? No, Darren would not stop him from making medicine. He had been with this group for a while and his understanding of Darren had formed. Truthfully, Darren was very easygoing and emphasized emotions. If he told Darren he wanted to make medicine for his eldest Xixiao, Darren definitely would not forbid him. And those medicine? That wasn't hard to make. He thought about the point system of the camp. With enough points, he could trade for the things he wanted with Bao Yi. If Bao Yi did not have them, the other would think of ways to buy them. The prerequisite was that you had enough points. Then he could start earning points. Yi Zheng's eyes became brighter. He came from Great Buddha Temple. Even though his cultivation was not as deep as Zhongru, but the dhyana methods he knew might not be any less valued, like how he had recently helped heal Xie Shan. If he could make Ling Dan, even if he could not leave, he could ask someone to deliver the pills to eldest Xixiang so eldest Xixiang could still be healed. Yi Zheng's mind was suddenly opened. The island affairs gradually progressed, but Mo was concerned about the 15,000 mu of Ling fields. It would really be a pity if they could not use such a large area of Ling fields, and Mo noticed that much of the Ling fields were degrading due to being left unused and uncared for. Even though the degradation was not significant yet, the situation was not good. Mo had examined all the Ling plant farmers on the island, and had not found any outstanding people. What was needed most urgently were Ling plant farmers. Only by recruiting more Ling plant farmers would make it so that the Ling fields on the island would not be wasted. Thinking about the wasted Ling fields on the island, Mo seemed to see countless jingsher slip through his fingers. He felt great pain and hurriedly called Shan Wei-ming, taking the group together to fly towards Su Ling City. As the biggest city in this area, Su Ling City possessed all the necessary licensing offices, the Institute of Ling Plants among them. Under Shan Wei-ming's guidance, he quickly reached the Institute of Ling Plants in the city. The Institute of Ling Plants was not large, and the most unique attribute of the institute was the Ling flowers and grasses that could be seen everywhere. Compared to other institutes, the Institute of Ling Plants was like a flower bouquet. Walking into the Institute of Ling Plants, Mo couldn't help but think about the first time he walked into an Institute of Ling Plants, his joy at receiving the Ling plant farmer jade medal. Those normal and average days seemed like they were just yesterday. The green carpet under their feet suddenly moved, and spread out like a hand, it lifted everyone up. It was the first time Ma Fan and Lei Peng came to an Institute of Ling Plants. They instantly jumped in fright as though they were facing a great enemy. Mo hurriedly explained what this carpet vine was. At the side, Nian Lu fell back in laughter, pointing at the two and calling them country bumpkins. Ma Fan and Lei Peng were very embarrassed. Shan Wei-ming felt it was hard to believe. There were people that had never been to an Institute of Ling Plants. Just as he was thinking, the carpet vine under their feet suddenly floated up and flew into the building. This is pretty interesting. Lei Peng bent down and brushed the leaves of the carpet vine with curiosity. Ma Fan did not have as thick of a face as Lei Peng. He once again resumed his usual calmness, and pretended to be scanning the surroundings. Today, Zhong Ru was in meditation, and Xia Shan was wounded from the previous battle. Even though he had gone through Yi Zhang's healing, he still needed rest. Wei Sheng was teaching the sword Xiu of Vermilion Bird Camp. Mo hadn't wanted to disturb him, so he had called Ma Fan's trio to accompany them. The trio was only a step away from Jin Dan and their combat capabilities were significant. With the three at his side, Mo felt very safe. Compared to the people that were sightseeing, Mo looked much more closely at the surroundings. There were many Ling plants and grasses that he had never seen before. It seemed that this institute of Ling plant was strong. There were differences in the strength of different institutes. Of course, the exams for jade medals would generally be standardized. This was one of the reasons that all kinds of jade medals were used widely. But the licensing offices would also have other businesses other than the exams. For example, the Institute of Ling Plants would sell seeds of Ling grasses and flowers, and would sometimes buy the mature Ling grasses and flowers that other Ling plant farmers grew. Of course, the opportunities to find a job was a free service. Mo had come this time to see if he could recruit Ling plant farmers. Thinking about those Ling fields that were being wasted, Mo felt his heart was burning. Even if he could not get enough to utilize it all, recruiting one more person would mean a bit less of the Ling fields were wasted. The carpet vine's speed was not fast but very steady. What was ahead of them was a wall that was covered in all kinds of creepers. When everyone flew close, the flower vines on the wall retreated like the tide towards the side. In front of them stood a middle-aged person. "You are Mo?" the middle-aged person asked coldly. "Who are you?" Mo instantly became wary, and the faces of the people beside him also changed. "That's good." The middle-aged person was expressionless. At this time, a clear shout came from Mo's head, "Fall." There was an ambush. Suemo was shocked. Before he could reach out, a seven-colored rainbow light fell from the sky and covered them. Chapter 450, Black Gold Seal Soldiers. Suemo felt the surroundings suddenly change. The middle-aged person in front of him was still coldly staring at him, but Ma Fan and the others who were beside him had disappeared. What was going on? Suemo's eyes instinctively narrowed. You don't need to search. The middle-aged person's tone was icy. 6th grade 1000 gem illusory disc, if you are not in Yuanying there's no way you can escape. Do not make meaningless efforts. Idiot. Suemo thought inside. His body suddenly disappeared from its current location and appeared behind the middle-aged person. His right hand inserted into the other's back like a poison snake darting out of its nest. Instantly it penetrated through. The same moment as when he struck, Suemo's expression changed slightly. Not good. The figure in front of him rippled, and with a pop, had disappeared. Illusion. Ha! The middle-aged person's smug smile sounded from all directions and echoed. Just as vicious as expected. However, aren't you first going to ask why I am attacking you? Suemo's thoughts flashed, and he followed the other's lead to ask, who are you? Why are you attacking me? Humph. Even if you did not ask, I would have said it. Letting you understand why you are dying. This one is Gu Xiang Tian. I owe much to the Ren family, and they died by your hands. I do not want to ask what happened between you, but I repay what I owe. They died, so I cannot repay them normally. Instead, I will take your head in sacrifice to them and finish this cycle of karma between me and them. Really? Suemo was not affected. He furiously searched for a trace of the other using his perception, yet there was a strange power filling the surroundings. When Suemo's perception extended 3 zhang away from him, it would become chaotic. This 1000-gem illusory disc was as strange as expected. The formations within it could confuse the consciousness, and it was the first time Suemo had ever encountered such a thing. Suemo became alert. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to easily escape today. However, he was not afraid. He had come through so many bloody battles and wouldn't be afraid such a battle. At this time, a voice rumbled as though it was coming out of the ground. Born to battle. The sound echoed in his ears. Born to battle, Suemo's expression suddenly changed. A seal soldier. A figure slowly appeared at a place about 10 zhang from him. Suemo inhaled sharply. As expected, a seal soldier. Compared to the seal soldier that Suemo had used before, the seal soldier in front of him was much smaller. It was about the same size as a real person and appeared extremely realistic. He had a cold expression, his body seemed to be made from steel, and its muscles were clearly defined and had a metallic sheen. There was no armor and the balanced figure was beautiful. His feet were bare, the empty eyes had no emotion as though he was dead. He looked coldly at Suemo's hairs suddenly stood on end. The seal soldier in front of him gave him unprecedented pressure. He felt as though he was being targeted by a vicious beast and didn't dare to move at all. Ha! To die by a 6th grade black gold seal soldier, to die inside the 6th grade 1000-gem illusory disc, your death is worthy. 6th grade. Suemo jumped in fright and his pupils suddenly contracted. The black gold seal soldier in front of him disappeared. Not good. The blurry outline of a leg suddenly appeared in front of him. The arm Suemo hurriedly held up in defense was like a fragile wooden shelf that instantly collapsed. Bam! Suemo felt as if he was just hit head-on by a charging rhinoceros Mo. He could not control his body. Like a sandbag, he flew backwards into the air. Such terrifying power. Suemo was shocked. He was at a disadvantage in physical strength. How was this possible? Even since he had cultivated the Mo physique, his physical strength had grown, and when he cultivated into the great Daimyo physique, he had never met an opponent that could rival him in physical force. Now he had been defeated based on his strongest area, physical strength. Suemo found it hard to digest. At this time, a feeling of danger formed. Suemo could not attend to anything else and suddenly curled into a ball. Enormous pain passed over him from his flank. Suemo made a muffled grunt. The other's kick was enough to make him feel as though his skeleton was going to come loose. The ground magnified in his eyes. Suemo knew that the seal soldier's attacks would not end so easily. Just as he was going to hit the ground, Suemo gritted his teeth, his hands pushed out, with lightning speed, against the ground. His entire body suddenly changed direction, while in such a strange posture. Whoosh! Suemo could clearly feel the blade-like air flow right against his back. Escaping, Suemo's posture changed again. His body furiously flashed about, on tiptoes, and distanced himself from the enemy. The black gold seal soldier did not pursue but stopped at the previous position. Suemo panted heavily as his gaze tightly followed the black gold seal soldier. Waves of pain came from his back and caused the corners of his mouth to twitch uncontrollably. If this was any other normal Jindan Shouja, if they were not Diana Shio, they would have lost half of their life after being hit twice like this. How long had it been since he was this disheveled? There seemed to be two fires burning in Suemo's eyes. Oh, your life is pretty hardy. Gu Xiangtian was slightly shocked. To be able to stop my black gold seal soldier twice and not die, are you a Diana Shio? The faint gold and transparent light void wings appeared on his back, Suemo's presence also increased. The black gold seal soldier disappeared from his position again. At the same time, Suemo also disappeared. Bam! The two figures crossed, and two fists smashed together without finesse. A twisted and transparent air ripple suddenly spread. Bam bam bam. The air seemed to ignite as these air ripples exploded everywhere. Just like the two had disappeared at the same time, the two reappeared together on their original spots as though they had not stepped away. A blood stream flowed down Suemo's arm, but Suemo did not detect it. His eyes that were like of a wild beast as he stared at the black gold seal soldier opposite him. 13 punches. 13 punches with all his power. Even Suemo's great Daimyo physique could not avoid being wounded after 13 fierce collisions. A gap 3 cun long had cracked open on his arm. This gap had formed due to the vibrations. However, he had not been wounded for nothing. Suemo stared at the fists of the black gold seal soldier. Each of its fists had a golden Great Day script imprinted on it. Day script palm. Interlaced among the 13 blows, Suemo had used the Day script palm. That's strange. Gu Xiangtian could not maintain his calmness. What is this? The Great Day script on the fists of the black gold seal soldier suddenly lit up, and the fists quickly melted at a visible rate into two irregularly shaped metal balls. The black gold seal soldier's expression was indifferent as though he did not feel any pain at all. Suddenly, the two metal balls that were the hands of the black gold seal soldier once again became two new hands that were as perfect as in the beginning. Suemo's expression became ugly. This guy was not made from flesh and blood. When it had been him using the seal soldier to hit other people, that had been pleasurable, but now that it was him facing against seal soldier, the feeling was terrible. Ha! Do not waste your efforts, stand for your death. Why struggle needlessly? Gu Xiangtian's smug laughter sounded in the surroundings. Gu Xiangtian's voice was ethereal and his position was unable to be found. Without a doubt, it was the 1,000-gem illusory disc at work. It was the first time Suemo had encountered a talisman that could take other people into it. It really was powerful. Did Ma Fan and the others know he was stuck in here? Did they too encounter danger? These thoughts flashed through his mind. He quickly put his attention on the black gold seal soldier in front of him. He found this very problematic. What he found problematic was not the black gold seal soldier's power and speed. He had both of these, even though he was slightly weaker, they were on the same level. What he found problematic was the black gold seal soldier's resilient body. To a person like him that only had ever used a third-grade seal soldier, an understanding of the sixth-grade seal soldier was something undoubtedly very distant to him. Its formations. Its forging methods. He did not know anything about these, much less its weaknesses. In this short interaction, he clearly learned just how strong the body of the black gold seal soldier was. Mo did not know if it was possible to destroy it with brute force, but he knew it was something he definitely was unable to do. The day script palm was useless. It had turned the soldier's hands had turned to metal balls and still did not affect it. Mo had a feeling that even if its entire body was melted, it could transform back into its present state. Mo stared viciously at the black gold seal soldier. He felt that this could make him appear strong, and his mind spun quickly. Maybe he could think of a way to find Gu Xiangtian and kill him. Mo felt that this idea was plausible. Gu Xiangtian's position was changing, and probably was the effect of the formations of the 1,000-gem illusion disk, because the seal shio could not be too far from the seal soldier. If the seal shio was too far away, the seal soldier's strength would lessen. But where was this guy? Yet the black gold seal soldier did not give Mo the time to think and leapt again. Helplessly, Mo could only throw the thoughts into the back of his mind. If he wasn't careful, he could easily lose his life to this powerful guy. Gu has many moves, Ge doesn't believe Ge can't stop you. The murderous Mo moved forward, his legs covered in a thin layer of gold as he stepped heavily on the ground. Golden crow feet. A large force came from under his feet. His figure that was already lightning fast suddenly doubled in speed. He appeared behind the black gold seal soldier out of thin air. For the first time, Mo's speed was faster than the black gold seal soldier. Without another word, Mo's right leg was like a light gold whip that struck the black gold seal soldier. Whoosh! A sound brighter than any before it. The black gold seal soldier's body was whipped into the air yet somersaulted away. Of the 6 transformations of the great Daimyo physique, the golden crow feet was the one with the most physical strength. Even as powerful as the black gold seal soldier was, it could not stabilize its figure. It was possible to see how strong the move was. While you're weak, take your life. Mo's feet pushed again. He once again appeared next to the black gold seal soldier with a strange blade shrouded in fire. The Ling power and consciousness in his body was unprecedentedly lively. Mo felt every piece of muscle, every bone, every tendon in his great Daimyo physique was vibrating together. Countless tiny bits of power continued to merge in an extremely short amount of time, and like the streams entering the sea, they formed a great and vast power. This astounding flood rampaged through his body to his arm. The muscles in his arm seemed to be plucked like cord and suddenly gave a clear hum as they vibrated. Mo's mind seemed to enter a wondrous state. Almost unconsciously, he followed this flood of power, and the flaming strange blade in his hand sliced with the flow. Midday blade strike. Chapter 451, Post-Epiphany Lei Ping Midday Blade Strike. The vast power was vented through this strike, turning into an enormous golden blade of energy that shot towards the black gold seal soldier. There seemed to be a shadow howling from inside the blade energy. The golden blade energy changed while it unroiled relentlessly. This was not the first time he had used the midday blade strike, but this strike was clearly different. The raging and vast power, in the moment it appeared, had caused the other powers in him to vibrate and collide like a spectacular drawing painted with rough, burning, thickly strokes. In an instant, a glimpse of understanding rose in Mo's heart, as though something was within his reach. But when he thought about it, he seemed to not have understood anything at all. Time seemed to slow down. Following along the pull of the howling power, Zhuo was like a devout believer. The wavering golden light energy reflected on the face of the black gold seal soldier. Its expression was normal and did not change, as it shielded its body by bending inward and it raising its two crossed arms in front of it. The howling blade energy was like a furious beast that smashed onto the crossed arms of the black gold seal soldier. The golden light exploded. Clang! It was as if an enormous bell rang out in a mountain valley. The sound wave reverberated past Zhuo and his body uncontrollably trembled. This was power. Power that would cause people to shake. Having just seen its appearance, Zhuo almost instantly became enchanted by it. Such strong power. Excited, Zhuo felt very satisfied with his above-normal display of power. Because the black gold seal soldier was a significant threat to him, he had had a momentary breakthrough and released such a powerful midday blade strike. The blinding and burning golden light filled his vision. A surprise exclamation came from Gu Xiangtian and Zhuo snickered soundlessly. The golden light disappeared. When he saw the black gold seal soldier was still standing in the center of the golden light, Zhuo's pupils suddenly contracted. He almost shouted in disbelief. Impossible! With its body completely red, the black gold seal soldier seemed to have been just taken out of a furnace. Countless seal scripts floated on its body. On the two arms that protected its face was a wound several cun long, and a cut almost went through its entire arm. But it had stopped the attack. It had managed to stop the attack. Zhuo's eyes was full of disbelief. He could not imagine. How could such a great power could be stopped? Was this the strength of a 6th-grade seal soldier? Zhuo murmured to himself. He quickly recovered from his daze, and his expression uncontrollably changed dramatically. This strike had produced a certain amount of damage to the black gold seal soldier. The red light on its body had gradually dissipated, but the marks on its arms had not healed completely like previously. The midday blade strike had destroyed the seal scripts on its arms. But Zhuo's expression did not show any good signs due to this. The midday blade strike just now had been far above his normal skill level. Even if he used the move again, he lacked the confidence in replicating the power it had. That midday blade strike had almost used all the power in his body. The feeling of weakness flooded in. The situation was not good. For Zhuo, the situation was terrible. We are ambushed. Nian Lu swept the surroundings. Ma Fan did not make a sound while Lei Peng scanned the surroundings in curiosity and rumbled, "Who is so brave? Daring to ambush us? Are they tired of living?" Shang Wei Ming's face was ashen as he said in a trembling voice, "1,000-gem illusory disc, this is the 1,000-gem illusory disc." Hearing this, Ma Fan raised his face. What is the 1,000-gem illusory disc? 1,000-gem. 1,000-gem illusory disc is the talisman that Qing Su Sanren became famed for. Shang Wei Ming's mood stabilized slightly and he hurriedly explained, it can trap people in it. There are countless illusions inside, and it is endless in space. If one cannot break through the formation, they can be trapped for their entire life. It is this powerful. Lei Peng was surprised and exploded. Shang Wei Ming weakly added, it is a 6th-grade talisman. Now everyone did not speak. 6th-grade talisman was not something they could defeat. If Wei Sheng was here, there might be a chance. Suddenly, a loud bang sounded in everyone's ears. The faces of Ma Fan and the others changed. Other than the four of them, only Zhuo was in here. The other's target was Darren. That was such a fierce collision, Darren must have encountered great danger. 3-section wave killing change. Ma Fan's gaze focused as he said simply. Lei Peng and Nian Lu's eyes lit up. How could they have forgotten that move? If they encountered a dense enemy formation, they must use sword energies of even greater power, and this was also the most powerful quality of the 3-section wave-killing change. At the beginning, they had to train together on this technique until the three of them were in sync, before it was considered complete. Later, they had been moved to the Sky Peak platoon, and their chances of charging at the very front had gotten smaller. "Old Fan, your brains are really good, no wonder you were once the core." Lei Peng rumbled out. He moved forward proactively, the three of them forming a triangle with Lei Peng at the very front. After Lei Peng had had epiphany on the battlefield, he had been laughed at by his fellows for a long time. What caused him to feel even more embarrassed was that the epiphany that was said to be a 1 in 1,000 chance had not helped him enter Jindan. The saber scripture that Lei Peng used to cultivate was called the Abyss Beast Soul Consuming Saber. The name was ostentatious, but it really wasn't a powerful saber scripture. Saber scriptures were hard to find, and good saber scriptures were even rarer. So instead he wanted to cultivate sword scriptures like the Clear Sky Sword Scripture. This guy had a thick skin and came with a begging face to seize YMO saw that such a big person like him coming to beg wasn't an easy thing to do, and naturally allowed it. The result was that he had read every one of Zhuomo's sword scriptures, no matter if it was good or bad. But after he read, he had even more questions, and even practicing the familiar saber scripture became awkward. That was until the epiphany on the battlefield last time that seemed to create a light among the mist. He actually comprehended 3 slightly unusual sword moves. When he had just comprehended them, they were only in their beginning stages. He had skipped over to ask for guidance from others. Who knew that after Wei Sheng watched them, Wei Sheng had praised the moves. On the road from Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia to Cloud Sea Jia, he had helped Lei Peng gradually refine them. After being refined and carved like rough jade, these 3 sword moves released their blinding light. Lei Peng called the 3 moves, Abyssal Chop. Spending every day together, Ma Fan and Lei Peng naturally knew the power of Lei Peng's 3 moves. They were very powerful, and most suited to heavy assault, so he became the primary attacker. The 3 stood still. Nian Lu's hands were like blooming lotus flowers. With a snap, a handful of small lotus flowers burst from his fingertips. Each of these little lotus flowers were the size of a thumb, small and adorable. When the little lotus flowers came out, they spread into the surroundings. The surroundings instantly started to waver, and Nian Lu's expression became grave. Even though his move of his could defeat illusory formations and usually worked, but what they were facing right now was a 6th-grade talisman. He didn't know if this would be effective. However, an indiscernible light flashed through Nian Lu's eyes. Pia pia pia. The little lotus flowers popped like bubbles. The changes in light around them became even more violent. However, Nian Lu stared tightly at a space not far from them. That place was only several chi big, but under his attack, from beginning to end, it had not changed a bit. There. Nian Lu's voice was full of confidence. He had not planned to defeat the illusory formation in front of them with his move. He knew he was not a match for an illusory formation produced by a 6th-grade talisman. He was trying to find the leverage point. Any illusory formation would have some areas that never changed, these were leverage points. They were the structure to the illusory formation and would not change as the illusory formation changed. And these leverage points were their target. When attacking an illusory formation, the worst thing to do was to attack aimlessly. The great majority of targets in an illusory formation were illusions, no matter how realistic they appeared, they were still illusions. If they attacked illusions, they would only miss. Only by attacking the structure of the formation could they truly damage the formation. Lei Peng's legs bent as he crouched slightly forward, his hands holding the golden crystal broadsword. Ling power burst from his body like a fire. In a blink, his body was covered in a thin layer of Ling power fire. This was a sign that Ling power was being channeled to its limits. Without needing a signal, Ma Fan and Nian Lu channeled Ling power simultaneously, and Ling power flames also appeared on their bodies in a thin layer. The Ling power flames on their bodies were all different. Lei Peng's flames were red with a tinge of black, giving people an intimidating feeling. Ma Fan's Ling power fire was gray and flickering, hard to catch. Nian Lu's Ling power fire was green with pink, extremely beautiful. Like a metal tower, Lei Peng glared angrily, all the muscles in his body expanding as he raised the gold crystal broadsword in his hand. Hiss! Countless fine air flows around him seemed to be plucked by an invisible hand. Sharp fine sword energies were like sharp shards of ice that hissed and flew. Ma Fan's eyes were half-lidded, the tip of the flying sword in his hand slightly raised, and Nian Lu's expression was grave, faint lotus flowers discernible on his long and slender flying sword. Having finished preparing, Lei Peng felt the blood vessels in his body expand, but his heart was like the eye of the storm, calm and peaceful. His mind moved, and he acted with his thought. All the gathered sword essence was like the flood rushing through the dam and venting out. The upraised golden crystal broadsword suddenly chopped down. Deep abyssal chop. Whoosh! The sound was like an enormous block of wood being thrown up, and caused fear in people's hearts. The surrounding space seemed to twist. This enormous sword that was like a horse-chopping saber seemed to come from the abyss of hell and did not have any light at all. Black and deep. The places where the sword edges passed appeared a bottomless deep abyss. Ma Fan and Nian Lu also attacked at the same time. A gray sword energy and a blue sword essence were like baby sparrows returning to the nest, combined with Lei Peng's bottomless and black sword energy. The sword energy suddenly grew, and that black abyss expanded slightly. That was a power that seemed to be able to swallow anything and instilled fear in people. A shocked shout came from the air. The owner of the 1,000-gem illusory disc also detected danger. The scenery next to the trio changed dramatically as the other tried to distract and confuse them. Lei Peng did not seem to see it. The growing sword energy in his hand accurately struck the place that Nian Lu had pointed at. The moment it struck, time seemed to slightly pause. Boom! Everyone felt their vision darken, the blackness that was endless seemed to swallow all of them. The ground under their feet trembled and shook fiercely. An angry voice came from the air. You dare to damage my talisman. All of you, wait for your death. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.